As soon as Elder Fire Slayer's words fell, the entire world erupted in thunderous roars. The furious cries of the fire venom beasts echoed one after another, reverberating through heaven and earth. Hurry and relocate the ancestral flame realm. Use the spatial jump, Fire Chief shouted anxiously. The Firekeepers had managed to survive safely in the ancestral lands for generations despite being weaker than the fire venom beasts, largely thanks to this spatial jump technique. Whenever their hiding place was discovered, they would use the spatial jump to flee and find a new refuge. The fire venom beasts had no way to counter it. As soon as the chief gave the order, the formation protecting their territory ignited in full force. A tremendous surge of spatial energy spread outward, enveloping the surrounding void. It was clear this space formation was incredibly powerful. Ordinary teleportation formations could only transport a single person. But to shift an entire continent, the difficulty was beyond imagination. Xiao Anshan glanced at Su Zimo. Should we destroy it? He asked. If the Firekeepers managed to escape now, their entire plan would fall apart. No need, Su Zimo replied, shaking his head. Wait and see. Unless those few rogue cultivators and the fire venom beasts are too useless to stop them, I won't intervene. Outside the cavern, Li Zhengfeng and the others noticed the commotion. Cover me, Wang Dong shouted. I'll break open the cave. Got it. The other three nodded. The swords of heaven and earth, bend to my will. With a furious roar, Li Zhengfeng of the Grand Heaven Sword Sect unleashed the heaven, earth, and human swords in his hands, manifesting thousands upon thousands of sword auras swirling around him. Each gleamed with razor-sharp intent. Any Firekeeper who came near would be instantly engulfed by a sea of blades. Go! Wang Dong roared. Under their cover, he rushed to the cave entrance. Can you open it? Wang Chong asked urgently. Don't worry, Wang Dong replied. Though I'm just a rogue cultivator, I once had a great stroke of fortune in my travels. I can gather all my energy into a single point and blow this entrance apart. After all, our attacks already weakened it. Good! The others cheered, tightening their defense around him. Wang Dong narrowed his eyes as spirit energy surged through his body like a roaring river, waves of power flowing toward his right index finger. He slowly lifted his hand. This would be the final strike. All his strength condensed at that single fingertip, glowing brighter and brighter, as if divine radiance were gathering there. He knew that once he released it, his finger would be crippled, beyond easy repair. But there was no other choice. Time was running out. When the power fully converged, he let out a fierce roar and brought his finger crashing down. A deafening explosion tore through the air. Nearby, the Firekeepers battling the fire venom beasts turned pale. Chief, the seal's been broken, someone shouted. Hold off the fire venom beasts, Fire Chief ordered. He knew too well that, compared to the fire god race intruders, the fire venom beasts were the true threat. The intruders might just cause some damage or seek treasures, but the fire venom beasts were ancient enemies of their bloodline, beings of pure destruction. If those beasts broke through, the Firekeepers would be annihilated. I'll demand an explanation from the Radiant Court once this is over, Fire Chief said angrily. They've betrayed us. Once Li Zhengfeng and his group entered the cave, only a handful of Firekeepers tried to stop them. But when they saw the maze ahead, endless tunnels twisting in all directions, they froze in disbelief. How do we even begin? Wang Dong muttered. I don't know, Li Zhengfeng said. Maybe we should catch a Firekeeper and make him lead us. Forget it, Wang Dong replied. They'd rather die than help us. From afar, Su Zimo observed and smiled. He turned to Xiao Anshan. Your turn. Lead them to the ancestral flame. I understand, Xiao Anshan nodded. While Wang Dong's group wandered the labyrinth, they suddenly noticed trails of flame-shaped markings glowing along the walls, pointing ahead. It's those fire marks again, Li Zhengfeng frowned. They had followed similar markings before. Those were what led them safely out of the fire venom beast's lair when they were nearly wiped out. I don't know which fire god race ally is guiding us, Li Zhengfeng called out. But please, show yourself. Of course, Xiao Anshan didn't respond. He was already far ahead, leaving the fiery trail that lured them straight to the ancestral flame. The four exchanged glances. Finally, Wang Dong said, "Whatever. If it's a trap, we'll deal with it. It's not like we've got another choice." Following the markings, they arrived before the Gate of Flames. Their eyes gleamed with excitement. "There's something inside," Wang Chong said, his voice trembling. "Something calling to me. I can feel a powerful flame energy." Except for Li Zhengfeng, all three were of the fire god race. They could sense the immense fire force within. "Let's go in," Li Zhengfeng said. But they underestimated the fire's might. When Li Zhuang merely brushed against the flames, unbearable heat surged over him, threatening to reduce him to ashes. "Careful," Wang Chong warned. It took nearly all of Li Zhuang's strength to extinguish the fire on his body. "What now?" he asked, staring at the blazing gate in frustration. The flames were so fierce that none of them had a way to dispel them. Li Zhengfeng tried slashing with his sword, but the moment it touched the fire, the blade melted into nothingness. "To think the prize is right in front of us, and we can't touch it," Wang Dong said bitterly. "The stronger the seal, the greater the treasure inside," Li Zhuang added. "At least we know we're on the right path." Across the void, Su Zimo watched them trapped before the Gate of Flames and smiled faintly. He slowly extended his right hand. Wisps of flame danced in his palm. When they had first entered the ancestral flame realm, Fire Chief had lit sacred incense and used the flames to envelop their bodies, guiding them through the fiery barrier. After Su Zimo left that place, he had carefully collected some of those flames, just in case he needed them again. Now he gently blew upon the flame, sending it drifting through the air toward Li Zhengfeng and his group. As the flame descended from the void, the four immediately reacted. "Careful!" Wang Dong shouted, swiftly trying to dodge. But he was a moment too slow. The flames fell upon him, engulfing his entire body. "I'm going to die," he cried out. Yet a second later, he froze in confusion. The flames weren't harming him. They softly wrapped around him, coating his body like a layer of warmth. What's going on?" The four exchanged puzzled looks. Could this be the key to entering the flame gate? Wang Chong guessed. "I'll try," Wang Dong said, stretching out a hand toward the flaming gate. To their amazement, nothing happened. His body seemed to blend seamlessly with the gate itself. "It's true. I'm fine," Wang Dong said in surprise. He looked around and then bowed deeply. "To the senior who has aided us from the shadows, our eternal gratitude." In his heart, he had a suspicion. The one who had left the trail of flame markings, and the one who now helped them pass the gate, might very well be the same person. As for that person's true intentions, he could only wait and see. Still, with the opportunity right in front of them, there was no way they would turn back. The four quickly passed through the Gate of Flames and entered the ancestral flame realm. Outside, in the vast void, Su Zimo and his companions emerged as well. "What do we do next?" Realm Lord Bai asked. "Don't let them escape," Su Zimo ordered. "Once they secure the ancestral flame, we'll take it from them. And be cautious, those firekeepers will realize what's happening soon." Once Li Zhengfeng's group entered the ancestral flame realm, their eyes were immediately drawn to the volcano in the distance. "It's in there," Wang Dong said, eyes gleaming. "I can feel it. An opportunity unlike anything I've ever known." "Let's go," Li Zhengfeng commanded. The four shot into the air, streaking across the sky toward the volcano's peak. It was an active volcano, thick plumes of smoke rising into the sky, rumbling as if it could erupt at any moment. "The temperature's too high," Li Zhengfeng said, frowning. "Only you of the fire god race can withstand it. As a human cultivator, he couldn't enter." "We'll go in and take a look," Wang Chong said. The three fire god race cultivators nodded and, filled with excitement, descended toward the depths of the volcano. Even for them, beings born of fire, the heat inside was overwhelming, scorching their flesh, making every breath feel like inhaling molten metal. The entire volcano interior was shrouded in thick smoke. They could barely see a few meters ahead. "I can feel it," Wang Chang said quietly. The deeper they went, the more the volcano seemed to respond. Suddenly, it erupted completely. A deafening rumble shook the earth. Rivers of magma surged upward like blazing dragons, roaring toward the sky. The molten torrents were so numerous that Wang Dong failed to dodge one in time. He was slammed aside, crashing into the volcanic wall. A scream followed. His clothes burned away entirely, leaving him a figure of living flame. "You okay?" Wang Chang called out. "Still alive?" Wang Dong rasped, forcing himself to stand. "I swear, whatever's down there, it's aware of us. It's trying to keep us away." "Who cares?" Li Zhuang said. "Great fortune comes only to those who take risks. Don't tell me you're backing down now." "Of course not," Wang Dong said quickly. "I'm saying we need to hurry before it's too late." The three picked up speed, diving deeper until they reached the base of the volcano. It was an ocean of fire. The magma churned violently, bubbling and spitting, each burst like a heartbeat from the Earth's core. The heat was tens of thousands of degrees, enough to melt anything to nothing. "Look at the center," Wang Chang shouted. They followed his gaze and saw it. A blue flame, glowing softly amid the inferno. Unlike the rest of the fire, this one was mesmerizingly pure and dreamlike, a beacon of beauty within chaos, like a lantern burning in a sea of flames. It was encased within a transparent shell. "Watch me," Wang Dong said, swinging his right arm. Flames condensed around him, forming a long fiery whip that lashed toward the blue flame's casing. Could this be it? The legendary ancestral flame our fire god race has spoken of for generations? Wang Chang said, trembling with excitement. With this fire, we could all ascend to the rank of Saint Sovereign. Their hearts pounded with anticipation. Wang Dong's whip coiled tightly around the transparent shell. He pulled hard, trying to drag both the shell and the blue flame upward, since the molten sea below was far too deadly to approach. But the shell didn't budge. Wang Dong gritted his teeth and poured all his strength into it, muscles bulging, veins standing out like cords on his arms. "What are you staring at? Help me!" he shouted. Wang Chang and Li Zhuang snapped out of it and grabbed hold of the whip, pulling with all their might. At last, the shell began to move slowly, stubbornly, but it moved. The blue flame within flickered fiercely, resisting as if it had a will of its own. Still, under their combined strength, it inched closer and closer. "Don't let go," Wang Dong warned. "If we release it now, everything we've done will be for nothing." "You don't have to tell us twice," Li Zhuang roared. After a long, grueling struggle, the transparent shell finally broke free and landed before them. The three stared in awe at the ethereal blue fire, laughing wildly in triumph. "All right, we've got it. Let's get out of here," Wang Dong said first, his survival instincts kicking in. "If the fire keepers find out, they'll hunt us to the ends of the earth." For the keepers, the sacred flame was more precious than life itself. The three raced out of the volcano as fast as they could. Once the blue fire was taken, the entire ancestral flame realm began to crumble. The heat rapidly faded. The blazing energy that once filled the place vanished, leaving only cooling embers behind. "You got it," Li Zhengfeng asked as they emerged. "Let's move," the three shouted, nodding. When they crossed back through the flame gate, the fire that had once surrounded it was gone, leaving only a bare, empty doorway. When the four left the flame gate, there was nobody left to stop them. The entire ancestral flame realm was collapsing. Almost all the fire keepers were tied up holding off the fire venom beasts and had neither the time nor the strength to chase down the four intruders. The four moved with practiced ease and fled outward. They all knew that if the fire keepers discovered what had happened, those guardians would abandon their battle with the beasts and recklessly attack the thieves. "Move," Li Zhengfeng said, using the sword aura of 10,000 blades to clear the way ahead as the others followed. Eventually the four left the vicinity of the black hole and returned to the outside world. "Where do we go?" Wang Dong asked. Where doesn't matter. Get far away, the farther the better. Wang Chong suggested. Those guardians will probably go mad. After they agreed, all four fled toward the far north. They had only gone some distance when the fire keepers began to notice something wrong. Ordinarily, the ancestral flame realm was scorching, but now that the fire had been taken, the temperature was cooling. Chief, the ancestral flame has been stolen, a guardian screamed with a voice full of grief. Impossible! Fire Chief staggered in the middle of battle, nearly losing his footing. There's the flame gate. Without my permission, who could have entered? But the fire is truly gone, we saw it, the guardian shouted. Fire Chief was dazed. He let his guard drop for a moment and a fire venom beast charged, knocking him flying. As he hit the ground, a flash of realization struck his mind. Those humans, he cried. Can you still find those humans? They're gone. Someone shook their head. Now, immediately, mobilize every guardian. Intercept those humans. Fire Chief roared. Whether they're of the fire god race or human, they must die. At his command, the guardians began to withdraw. They no longer tangled with the beasts. Instead, the space jump formations were all activated and they escaped. The fire venom beasts could do nothing to stop them. Meanwhile, Li Zhengfeng and the other three kept running, elated. With this flame, we'll definitely become Saint Sovereigns, Wang Chong said happily. No, higher than that, Li Zhuang said eagerly. But this fire only benefits your fire god race. What about my share? Li Zhengfeng asked. As a human, the ancestral flame was useless to him, so he had to think about how to get anything out of this venture. Otherwise, it would have been a thankless risk. Don't worry, Brother Li. If we find a legacy, we'll give it to you. Wang Dong laughed. If there's no legacy, we'll compensate you with whatever valuables we have. Li Zhengfeng could only nod. He had suspected before entering that the treasures here would be most useful to the fire god race. For other races, it was uncertain. He had prepared himself accordingly. While they ran, Wang Chong glanced at Li Zhuang and then at Wang Dong. The three exchanged a look. After they had put some distance between themselves and the black hole, Wang Dong moved first, suddenly rising up and attacking Li Zhengfeng. He was fast, and Li Zhengfeng had no warning. He was struck directly and hurled through the air. When Li Zhengfeng stood up, his chest had been caved in and his body was bleeding profusely. What are you doing? Li Zhengfeng shouted in fury. Brother Li, just go on and be at ease, Wang Dong said with a smile. These are the ancestral lands of the fire god race. What business does one human have here? You intend to take the fire for yourselves? Li Zhengfeng realized instantly. How could we keep it all to ourselves? Wang Chong said with a smile. We'll split it 3 ways anyway. Brother Li, it's of no use to you. The Grand Heaven Sword Sect will not let this go, Li Zhengfeng said coldly. My fire cloud palace isn't to be trifled with either, Wang Chong replied in a low voice. Li Zhengfeng, we're not children. Threats with backing won't scare us. Wang Chong continued, his aura surging outward with thundering force. If we needed to rely on our allies to deal with you, that would be pathetic. Su Zimo smiled. I'll fight you with one hand, while you 4 come at me. Who are you insulting? Wang Chong snarled and leapt, flames exploding as he charged at Su Zimo. He moved with terrifying speed. The flames around him seemed to burn through the void and form a figure of fire. Meanwhile, Li Zhuang and Wang Dong looked toward Li Zhengfeng and said with smiles, Brother Li, there are outsiders here. How about we join forces? Set aside grievances and deal with them first. Ridiculous. Do you think I trust you? Li Zhengfeng sneered. Believe it or not, it doesn't matter, Wang Dong explained. The point is, if we die, he'll kill you as well. You won't survive either. Better to team up and deal with them. We'll let you go. Li Zhengfeng considered for a moment. The logic was undeniable. He didn't trust Wang Dong and the others to actually let him leave, but he had his own plan. Fine, I agree, Li Zhengfeng said as he pushed himself up. At that moment, applause sounded. Good. Before we even start, you're already turning on each other. Saves us a lot of trouble. someone said. Who? Wang Chong and the others turned to look. Su Zimo and his party walked out of the void, unhurried. Who are you? Wang Dong demanded. From the Chaos Fire God realm. Li Zhuang recognized them and his expression grew serious. Then he gave a light laugh. What are the elites of the Chaos Fire God realm doing here? Hand the item over, Xiao Anshan said directly. What item? Wang Chong stepped back with a laugh. Cut the act, just speak plainly, Su Zimo said. We left the flame markings and we helped you get the ancestral flame. Do you really think the likes of you could have broken into the ancestral flame realm on your own? Oh, it's you. Wang Chong and the others' faces darkened. What do you mean by this? Using a borrowed blade to kill? Wang Chong asked. You're not even fit to be accused of using a borrowed blade. But you're right about one thing, Xiao Anshan replied. Thanks for helping bring the fire out for me. You all seem to have forgotten, this is the ancestral lands, not the Inferno Crucible heaven. We're not intimidated by the name of your Chaos Fire God realm, Wang Chong said, his might surging in ripples around him. If we still needed to rely on bullying with backing to handle you, that would be embarrassing. Su Zimo smiled. I'll face all four of you with one hand. Wang Chong scowled and attacked. The fierce flames flared as he charged at Su Zimo. Li Zhuang and Wang Dong turned to Li Zhengfeng and suggested forming an alliance to deal with the newcomers. Li Zhengfeng, having just decided to cooperate, rose to his feet. Su Zimo looked at Wang Chong charging toward him and gave a cold smile. He raised his hand and unleashed the creation-devouring Godfinger. The sky-shattering fingertip descended, carrying the power to devour the heavens and rewrite fate, sweeping across everything in its path. A thunderous rumble filled the air. That fingertip looked like a pillar propping up the sky itself. Wang Chong felt an overwhelming, irresistible force crashing down upon him, blotting out everything from his sight, until there was nothing left but that colossal finger. A deafening explosion followed. Wang Chong felt as though he had slammed headfirst into the pillar of heaven itself, utterly powerless to resist. His body was sent flying, crashing heavily to the ground. Wang Chong! Li Zhuang shouted. Wang Chong lay on the ground convulsing, his body mangled and soaked in blood. A single strike had left him unconscious. Let's attack together, Li Zhuang cried out in shock. The three remaining men no longer cared about grudges. Survival was all that mattered now. Powerful imperial auras erupted around them as the three Grand Emperors surrounded Su Zimo from different directions. Li Zhengfeng's entire body was shrouded in sword energy, endless sword intent roaring through the heavens. With one wave of his hand, countless blades of will echoed through the air. Around Li Zhuang, clouds of flame coiled and burned, wrapping his whole form in fire. As for Wang Dong, though he was a rogue cultivator, his strength was the greatest among them. He clenched his fists, and the phantom roars of fierce lions and tigers shook the void. Kill! The three shouted furiously as they charged. Su Zimo only smiled lightly at the sight. He stepped into the air and lashed out with a single kick. A loud boom sounded as Li Zhuang's charging figure was sent flying backward. The fire clouds around him shattered and vanished into nothingness. Then Su Zimo extended both hands, seizing Li Zhengfeng and Wang Dong by their arms. His body spun in midair, faster and faster, until a violent tornado erupted around him. When he finally released them, both men were hurled away like rag dolls. Leave the ancestral flame, and I'll make your deaths quick, Su Zimo said with a calm smile. Li Zhuang and the others struggled to rise from the ground. Run! Li Zhengfeng shouted. Just one exchange had left them terrified to their cores. This man was on an entirely different level. 3 Grand Emperors together, and they couldn't even touch him. They would rather flee than fight. Think you can run? Su Zimo chuckled. He extended his right hand and tore open the space ahead. In the blink of an eye, he appeared directly in Li Zhuang's escape path and threw a single punch. Under Li Zhuang's horrified gaze, his head exploded like a watermelon. A moment later, Su Zimo crossed the void again and appeared before Li Zhengfeng. Spare me. Li Zhengfeng didn't finish his plea before Su Zimo's flames of Zhurong fire consumed him, leaving not even ashes behind. As for the last one, Wang Dong, he looked up mid-flight only to see Su Zimo already standing before him. He tried to change direction, but no matter which way he ran, Su Zimo blocked his path. I'll give you the ancestral flame. Just let me live, Wang Dong said, trembling. He carefully took out a transparent sphere, inside which a blue flame pulsed like a living thing. You think you're in any position to bargain with me? Su Zimo smiled. If you don't agree, I'll destroy it. None of us will get it. Wang Dong shouted desperately. Go on then. Try it, Su Zimo said indifferently, walking slowly toward him. Wang Dong's throat quivered as he swallowed hard. Don't come any closer. Stay back. When Su Zimo ignored his threats, Wang Dong panicked. In a fit of desperation, he channeled his power, flames bursting from his palm as he tried to shatter the sphere. But he had severely underestimated its strength. No matter how fiercely he struck, the transparent barrier didn't show even the slightest crack. Instead, his violent attacks seemed to enrage the blue flame inside. The fire suddenly flared up, engulfing Wang Dong entirely and devouring him in an instant. Su Zimo shook his head and let out a small laugh. The transparent sphere dropped to the ground. He reached down to pick it up, just as a shout rang out in the distance. Put down the ancestral flame. The fire keepers had arrived. Elder Huatu strode through the air and struck at Su Zimo with a palm filled with blazing force. Su Zimo snorted coldly. With one hand, he grabbed the transparent sphere. With the other, he met the elder's palm head-on. The collision exploded like thunder. Su Zimo stood unmoving, while Elder Huatu was sent flying backward. The elder steadied himself and drew a deep, serious breath. Then Fire Chief stepped forward as well. Master Su, he said. Don't misunderstand, Fire Chief, Su Zimo replied with a smile. We didn't steal this ancestral flame. Those men did. We just happened to cross paths and took it back. We know, Fire Chief said, nodding. We were chasing them here. We must thank you for recovering our fire. You've done the fire keepers a great service. You misunderstand again, Su Zimo said with a faint smile. Who said we took it back for you? Fire Chief's smile froze. Master Su, what do you mean? You know this ancestral flame is the sacred treasure guarded by our clan. I know, Su Zimo said. But we took it from those thieves. What does that have to do with your clan? Fire Chief forced himself to stay calm. After a moment he said, Name your terms. Whatever you want, we'll agree. I don't have any terms, Su Zimo said lightly. I'm keeping the ancestral flame. He put the sphere away as he spoke. At once, the fire keepers surrounding them began to move, their figures appearing one after another, quietly closing in on Su Zimo's group. Master Su, I'm afraid you won't be leaving with that fire today, Fire Chief said grimly. Oh, Su Zimo smiled. You plan to stop me? Then try it. Let's see how sharp my blade really is. The air froze in tension. Fire Chief wanted to reclaim the ancestral flame but feared that he and his men were no match for Su Zimo. If you take the fire away, Fire Chief said, the ancestral lands will collapse. The Radiant Court will never allow it. He couldn't intimidate Su Zimo himself, so he invoked the name of the Radiant Court, the ruler of the Inferno Crucible Heaven, whose authority all other forces respected. But Su Zimo only smiled, looking at him with pity. Fire Chief, he said, the times have changed. You're still clinging to the past. Have you ever considered that this might be exactly what the Radiant Court wants? When Fire Chief heard Su Zimo's words, his brows furrowed slightly. What do you mean? What do you mean by saying it was the will of the Radiant Court? Have you ever thought about why the Radiant Court allowed people like us to enter here? Su Zimo asked. This, Fire Chief hesitated, uncertain. To tell the truth, Su Zimo continued, the ancestral flame in this place is incomplete. You probably know that, don't you? How do you know? Fire Chief froze. At that moment, not only Fire Chief, but even Shangguan Xian and Xiao Anshan were shocked. They were both of the fire god race, yet they had never heard such a thing. "What is going on here?" they demanded. "It seems you do know," Suzimo said with a faint smile. "That makes it easier to explain. Saves me some breath. The fire's incompleteness prevents all fire god race cultivators from reaching the final realm. Other than you, probably only the one from the Radiant Court knows this as well. He's the only one among the fire god race qualified to step into that realm. So, whether for the sake of the fire god race as a whole or for his own ascension, the fire must be made whole, correct? To complete the ancestral flame, what does that have to do with you thieves who stole it?" Fire Chief snapped back. Yet deep down, he was already beginning to believe Suzimo's words. The man knew too much, even things he himself did not know. To restore the fire, Suzimo went on, certain key components are required. You've searched for years but never found them. So the Radiant Court devised other methods to repair the flame. Unfortunately, it's always been missing something. He smiled faintly. "Let me guess the agreement between you and the Radiant Court. The Radiant Court promised to protect your firekeepers from extinction, but in return you agreed that as long as the Radiant Court didn't take away the ancestral flame, they could claim the ancestral lands. Because if the fire is taken away, the ancestral lands will collapse, and you will die with it. The so-called firekeepers protect not only the flame itself, but the hope of the fire god race, and their own lives. Furthermore," Suzimo said, "the Radiant Court surely made a pact with the fire venom beasts. They'd never wipe them out for you, because without natural enemies, you'd slip from their control. Watching you fight each other is the smartest move." Fire Chief felt a chill. Suzimo's words matched reality perfectly, as if he had personally attended the ancient agreement. "You?" He pointed at Suzimo, speechless for a long moment. Finally, he said, "You still haven't told me. What is the Radiant Court's true purpose?" "There are three," Suzimo said. "First, they want to use us as tools, to bring the ancestral flame out of this land without dirtying their hands or taking the blame, while they reap the benefit. As for this ancestral lands and your firekeepers, you're relics of an old era. To complete the new fire, your sacrifice is inevitable. Second, they want to purge the fire god race of certain aberrations, those with hidden ambitions and divided loyalties. And third," he smiled faintly, "perhaps they just wanted to meet me." Suzimo looked at him calmly. "I will take the fire. You cannot stop me. Leave now, and at least enjoy the last moments of your lives. You've guarded the flame your entire existence. Perhaps it's time to do something else." Fire Chief and the firekeepers all gave a bitter laugh. "I believe you," Fire Chief said. "Everything you've said rings true, but we have guarded the flame all our lives. Even in the end, we will live and die with it." He raised his hand and roared, "Everyone, attack with me! Take back the fire!" From all directions, dozens of firekeepers charged forward. Suzimo shook his head slightly. He actually admired such people, those who knew there was only death ahead, yet still walked their chosen path without hesitation. "Very well," he said quietly. "Then let me send you off." Suzimo pressed his palms together, gathering immense power within his hands. Aryan Swastika God Seal. Since stepping into the Saint Sovereign realm, he had rarely used this technique. Now, above his head, a colossal swastika-shaped seal spread across the heavens. It shrouded the world, radiating overwhelming might. Suzimo brought his hands down. The seal pulsed like a hellish inferno, its lines flowing with thick, blood-red light. Some say the swastika was once an ancient sacred symbol, a mark of Buddhist origin. But in Suzimo's hands, reversed and perverted, it became something from the abyss, soaked in demonic, destructive power. As it descended, the world trembled violently. Heaven and earth spun. Sun and moon lost their light. The firekeepers below looked up and felt an irresistible force pressing down on them. Those with weaker cultivation were instantly crushed into dust. Even the two Saint Sovereigns, Fire Slayer and Huxia, screamed in agony as their bodies shattered under the pressure. "You were born of the flame," Suzimo said coldly, "and now you die by it. That is your fate, beginnings and endings, all within the same fire. With a deafening boom, the massive seal finally slammed down. The ground split apart into a bottomless crater shaped like the swastika symbol, and in its center, all fire keepers had turned to ash. Xiaoanshan let out a deep sigh. After all, the fire keepers were part of their race. To see them all perish filled him with regret. "Don't mourn," Su Zimo said calmly. "We should leave here quickly." He pointed toward the distance. Far away, the world itself had begun to collapse, truly collapse, in the sense of total annihilation. Su Zimo knew that within the ancestral lands there were 6 ancestral fires. The one they had just taken was of the water attribute, which meant that all regions aligned with water would now dissolve into nothingness. If all 6 fires were taken, the entire ancestral lands would vanish completely. The land before them was already disintegrating. If they didn't escape fast enough, they would be destroyed along with it. The 4 of them braced themselves, not daring to relax for an instant. "Which way should we run?" asked Realm Lord Bai. "North," Su Zimo replied. "That should be the domain of thunder." They soared into the air, racing northward. Behind them, the destruction of the world chased close, the earth collapsing, the sky shattering. Rare natural disasters erupted all at once. Tornadoes, earthquakes, landslides, every sign of an apocalypse. "Faster! Go faster!" Su Zimo shouted. Halfway through, Realm Lord Bai was almost struck by a massive boulder flying from behind. The impact nearly dragged her into the collapsing void. Luckily, Su Zimo grabbed her and hurled her forward with all his strength. "Thank you," Realm Lord Bai said, still trembling with fear. "Stay focused," Su Zimo replied with a frown. "Escaping isn't the hard part." The 4 of them continued soaring through the sky. At times they tore through the void. At times they crossed 1,000 miles in a single step. By dusk, they finally left the collapsing world behind. They arrived at the domain of the Thunder Ancestral Flame. From the edge of this region, they could already see the place they had escaped from, a world that had completely vanished. Between the 2 realms lay countless bottomless chasms. Anything that fell in made no sound and never returned. Those abysses led straight to the base of the universe, the eternal end of all worlds. Realm Lord Bai, completely exhausted, sat on the ground, gasping for breath. "We're safe now," she said. "May I take a look at that flame?" Xiaoanshan asked, turning to Su Zimo. "You 2 plan to cultivate with it," Su Zimo said, glancing at Xiaoanshan and Shangguanxian. Both nodded silently. This might be their only chance in life to touch an ancestral flame. "All right," Su Zimo said. "I'm not after all 6 ancestral flames anyway. 1 is enough." He handed them the transparent orb. The 2 of them sat cross-legged, already immersed in comprehending and cultivating with the fire's energy. Su Zimo sat down beside Realm Lord Bai. "So far, we haven't come across your fated opportunity," he said. "If I find it later, it'll be yours." "It's all right," Realm Lord Bai replied quickly, smiling. "This is the Fire God race's ancestral lands. I'm not expecting much from fate. Being able to come here with you and witness this place is already enough. Greed only leads to ruin." Su Zimo smiled faintly. Contentment was rare, and wisdom even rarer. Too many in this world were devoured by desire, and most of them met miserable ends because of it. "Are we going to look for another ancestral flame next?" she asked curiously. "No need," Su Zimo said, shaking his head. "1 is plenty. Next, we'll search for some ancient grounds and watch a good show." "Watch a show?" Realm Lord Bai looked puzzled. "You just follow along," Su Zimo said. "Watch more, listen more, ask less. Understand?" She nodded immediately. They rested there for the night. By morning, Xiaoanshan and Shangguanxian had finished their cultivation. "How did it go?" Su Zimo asked. Xiaoanshan nodded. "Not far from becoming a saint sovereign," he said simply. As for Shangguanxian, she seemed to be in deep meditation. Her aura had not been strong at first, but throughout the night, something had been brewing within her. Now it suddenly erupted. A powerful energy surged into the sky, and the immortal flame surrounding her grew brighter and more violent. She's about to become a saint sovereign? Xiao Anshan said in disbelief. He had thought his own progress was impressive, reaching the threshold of sainthood in such a short time, but Shangguanxian seemed about to break through entirely. Fiery light swirled around her as immortal flame transformed into a sea of fire. The essence of her inner laws was evolving, from profound meaning into pure law. It was the ultimate metamorphosis of flame, fierce and absolute. Especially her immortal spirit fire, among all flames, it was one of the strongest. Inside Shangguanxian's body, her 10th meridian gate was being struck repeatedly. Blood trickled from the corner of her lips as her organs cracked and shattered, yet the overwhelming power continued hammering the barrier. This was her perfect moment to step into the saint-sovereign realm. As the fire roared, Realm Lord Bai couldn't help but feel envy. If her own sect, the ancient eternal god realm, had a saint-sovereign like this, they would never again fear other powers. She wondered if she herself would ever have such a chance. But Su Zimo's voice pulled her out of her thoughts. "Someone's coming," he said, looking into the distance. It was no surprise. Shangguanxian's breakthrough had created such a commotion that it was bound to attract attention. Su Zimo had expected this. He just didn't know whether those who came would merely watch or try to interfere. He raised his eyes. 3 figures were approaching, none from the 6 great god realms, likely independent cultivators. 2 of them were twins, identical in face and stature, distinguishable only by their clothing. The third was a woman, wearing short azure shorts that revealed her long, slender, pale legs, and a crimson silk robe wrapped around her upper body. In her hand spun a golden scythe, twirling swiftly around her wrist like a blade of light. "Who goes there?" Xiao Anshan stepped forward and demanded. "So it's the group from the Chaos Fire God realm," said the twin on the left, a young man in white. He smiled politely. "We are Luan Wan and Luan Wu, twin brothers of the Golden Wing sect. And this young lady is Fire Maiden from the Colorless sect." "The Colorless sect?" Xiao Anshan frowned, glancing at the woman with the scythe. That sect wasn't one of the 6 great god realms, but its reputation was widespread. It was said that the Colorless sect accepted only women, all of them stunningly beautiful. Some saint sovereigns had even lost their composure because of them. As for the Golden Wing sect, Xiao Anshan had never heard of it, probably a third-rate sect at best. "Someone is breaking through up ahead," he said firmly. "Whatever business you have, stay back." "Of course," Fire Maiden replied with a faint smile. "We're just here to watch and learn. We won't interfere." As they spoke, Shangguanxian's breakthrough reached its climax. A thunderous boom erupted from within her. A phoenix of immortal flame burst out from her body, brilliant and sacred, before dissipating into the air. A wave of holy might swept across the heavens, engulfing everything. Shangguanxian exhaled deeply, then slowly opened her eyes. "You've broken through," Su Zimo said. "I was lucky," she replied with a bright smile. "While comprehending the ancestral flame, the final shackle within me broke. Just entering the ancestral lands had allowed her to step into the saint-sovereign realm. That alone made the entire journey worthwhile. Thank you all for guarding me." She bowed gratefully. Her breakthrough had come unexpectedly. Without their protection, she might not have succeeded. "Congratulations, fellow Taoist, on attaining sainthood," Luan Wan said with a smile. They had made no move during her breakthrough, and now that she was a saint sovereign, they certainly wouldn't dare to. "What business brings you here?" Su Zimo asked. "We found an ancient site up ahead," Luan Wan replied with a grin. "Would you be interested in taking a look?" "You discovered an ancient site," Su Zimo said with a soft chuckle. "Yet instead of exploring it yourselves, you came to tell us? That doesn't sound quite right, does it?" "Don't misunderstand," Luan Wan explained quickly. "We weren't the only ones who discovered this ancient land. The people from the Undying Fire God realm are also there. More importantly, the entrance to that ancient site lies beneath the lair of a fire venom beast. We haven't figured out how to get in yet, If we disturb the beast, it could cost us dearly. An ancient site, huh? Then let's go take a look, Su Zimo said. As for the Undying Fire God realm, he remembered his previous conflict with them, when he nearly killed that fellow named Su Fengyun. The thought amused him. He was curious to see what expression Su Fengyun would wear this time. We can lead the way, Luan Wen offered with a smile. Su Zimo nodded and didn't refuse. As they walked, Xiao Anshan glanced over at Shang Guanxian and grinned. So, how does it feel to be a Saint Sovereign? I'm still adapting to the power inside me, Shang Guanxian replied. The primal Daos are truly profound and full of wonders, and the life-death soul even more so. There's so much to explore within the Saint Sovereign realm. Seems like this trip to the ancestral lands wasn't wasted. Then, Xiao Anshan said. You're not far behind yourself, Shang Guanxian told him. I'm trying, he said with a laugh. Can't let you surpass me. After all, during the Chaos Fire God realm selection, he had placed second while Shang Guanxian had been third. With Luan Wen and his companions leading the way, Su Zimo's group soon arrived at the ancient site. It was located along a cliff overlooking a vast gorge. The gorge was bottomless, the cliffs on both sides rising tens of thousands of feet high. Within the gorge, thick greenery and drifting mists obscured everything. Their vision was filled with white haze. Occasionally, they caught glimpses of flying beasts spreading their wings across the cliffs before their shadows disappeared into the fog. They stopped at a protruding ledge. Fire Maiden pointed toward the opposite cliff. See that? The ancient site is over there. I can't see a thing, Realm Lord Bai said after staring for a while. The fog's too thick. I can't even spot the fire venom beast's lair, let alone an ancient site. Of course you can't, Fire Maiden said with a smile. We didn't notice it at first either. It only caught our attention because of a strange phenomenon earlier. Then let's go take a closer look, Su Zimo suggested. Everyone stepped into the air, walking on clouds of white mist as they headed toward the opposite cliff. As they neared, Su Zimo signaled for them to slow down, best not to alarm the fire venom beasts. He wasn't afraid of them, but unnecessary trouble was always a waste of time. I see it, Shang Guanxian said first. Everyone looked up and saw, half hidden by thick trees and vines, a red cave entrance embedded in the mountainside. It pulsed like a living thing, swallowing and releasing air, as though feeding on the surrounding energy. That's the entrance to the fire venom beast's lair, Su Zimo said. Exactly. Look down there, Fire Maiden said, pointing below. At first glance, it looked like nothing unusual, but on closer inspection, they saw a massive mural carved into the rock beneath the lair. Etched deeply into the stone were lifelike depictions of the azure dragon, white tiger, vermilion bird, and black tortoise, the four god beasts. It's a four symbols mural, Xiao Anshan said, studying it. What kind of ancient site could this be? No idea, Fire Maiden replied, shaking her head. We'll only know once we get inside. As they examined the site, Su Zimo suddenly said sharply, Be careful! 3 streaks of light shot toward them from afar, so fast that no one had time to react. But the lights weren't aimed at them. They struck directly at the fire venom beast's lair. A deafening explosion erupted. The entire lair blew apart, sending rocks and shattered trees flying as the gorge trembled violently. The massive detonation, of course, woke the fire venom beasts. From the churning, swamp-like entrance, fiery red arms began to stretch outward. Damn it! They're using us as bait, Luan Wu shouted in anger. Su Zimo turned his gaze toward the direction the light had come from. On the far side of the gorge, 3 figures stood suspended in the air, watching them. He immediately recognized the one in the center, an old acquaintance, Su Fengyun of the Undying Fire God realm. The same man he had beaten nearly to death before. If not for the intervention of the Undying Fire Realm Lord, Su Fengyun would already be a corpse. The other 2 figures beside him must have been fellow contestants from the Undying Fire God realm, though Su Zimo didn't know them. So it was revenge. Su Zimo understood instantly. After provoking the fire venom beasts, the trio turned and left without hesitation. Meanwhile, more and more fire venom beasts were crawling out of the lair, dozens, then hundreds. Each one was powerful, and among them, 2 or 3 emitted an unmistakable Saint Sovereign aura. Worse still, the beasts just kept coming. "We can't stay and fight," Suzimo said decisively. If it were only a few, killing them would have been no problem. But this was an entire nest, millions of them. Even if they managed to kill them all, they'd be exhausted, easy prey for others waiting in the shadows. "Retreat," Suzimo ordered. Just as he spoke, one of the Saint Sovereign fire venom beasts lunged forward. Its enormous body shot through the air like a cannonball, slamming into the ground with a thunderous explosion. Its 2 massive claws came crashing down toward Suzimo's head. With a swift motion, Suzimo's sword, Shadow Tyrant, leapt from its sheath and met the strike above his head. Even so, the sheer force drove him downward, his knees bending under the pressure. He let out a cold grunt, straightened his body, and yanked Shadow Tyrant free from between the beast's claws. Then he slashed, a single stroke that split mountains. The swords will tore through the sky with a roar, severing both of the beast's claws in one strike. The fire venom beast howled in fury. "You all go first. I'll hold them off," Shangguanxian said suddenly. "Can you handle it?" Xiaoanshan asked. "I just advanced to Saint Sovereign," she replied with a smile. "I'd like to test my strength." "Don't worry." Suzimo trusted her. Aside from matters involving her family, Shangguanxian was calm and rational, never reckless without reason. Only when facing her clan did she seem to lose all reason, as if blinded by hatred. Suzimo led the others across the gorge to the opposite cliff. Behind them, Shangguanxian unleashed her full power. Her immortal spirit fire blazed into a towering wall of flame, consuming everything in its path and engulfing the fire venom beasts within. "Down you go!" she shouted, stepping hard on the air and kicking one of the beasts back into the depths below. After shaking off the fire venom beasts, the group stopped in the middle of the gorge. Their expressions were dark and unpleasant. Being ambushed was never a good feeling. "When we first tried to enter that ancient site, they blocked us," Luanwu said angrily. "I thought they'd gone in already. But no, they were still waiting nearby, planning to ambush us again." He didn't know about Suzimo's past conflict with the Undying Fire God realm and assumed those people were targeting them instead. "They're just ants," Suzimo said calmly. "Annoying maybe, but still ants. We'll find them, kill them, and then go into the ancient site." "How do we find them?" Xiaoanshan asked. "They've probably gone into hiding." "They won't have gone far," Suzimo said with a faint smile. "They won't give up on that ancient land. And as long as they're nearby, finding them won't be hard." He raised his hand, and a compass, the traceless compass, floated into the air. When it came to tracking people, Suzimo had never met anyone better than himself. The compass spun rapidly as he began tracing the auras of the Undying Fire God realm cultivators. In less than 3 minutes, the rotation stopped. The arrow pointed east. "Follow me," Suzimo said, stepping into the air and flying eastward. The others followed close behind, diving deeper into the misty gorge. From above, the area stretched endlessly, a vast, ancient forest of tangled wilderness. Finding a few people here would normally be like finding a needle in the ocean. Even a few hundred could vanish without a trace among these trees. Deep in the gorge, before a giant tree, Su Fengyun stood at the center. At his sides were 2 young men, the one on the left named Chang Hu, and the one on the right named Mu Zhe. Both were personal disciples of the Undying Fire Realm Lord and ranked among the most powerful of the younger generation in the Undying Fire God realm. In truth, they were both stronger than Su Fengyun. But Su Fengyun's status was different. He was the Realm Lord's youngest son, born with privilege and showered in resources. His position made even these 2 bow their heads before him. Chang Hu spoke first. "Those wanderers have teamed up with the Chaos Fire God realm. That's bad news for us. That bastard from the Chaos Fire God realm, I hadn't even gone looking for him yet, and now he's come right to me, Su Fengyun said bitterly. He still burned with humiliation from his last defeat at Su Zimo's hands. Nearly killed, saved only because his father intervened. He had never suffered such disgrace in his entire life. You can't be impulsive, Mu Ze warned. We're no match for them in a head-on fight. I know that, Su Fengyun said through clenched teeth. But I can still make them miserable, even if it costs me. If we can't enter the ancient site, then neither can they. Chang Hu lifted his head toward the sky. They're searching for us, he said. In this endless forest? Su Fengyun sneered. They could search for a lifetime and still not find us. Wait, they're flying this way, Chang Hu said uncertainly. Impossible. It's just coincidence, Su Fengyun said. Hide, and we'll see what they're planning. Up above, Su Zimo and his companions hovered over the forest canopy. He scanned the surroundings, then glanced at the traceless compass floating above his head. A faint smirk tugged at his lips. Well? Xiaowanshen asked. Come out, Su Zimo said casually. No need to hide any longer. There was no response, only silence. Maybe you were wrong? Luan Wen asked. Su Zimo gave a cold snort and drew his sword, Shadow Tyrant. With a flick of his wrist, he hurled it. The blade flashed like lightning, piercing into a nearby tree trunk. A scream echoed through the forest. Blood began to flow from the bark, and Chang Hu's body was thrown backward, crashing to the ground. How did you find me? He stammered, terror in his eyes. You've no idea who you're dealing with, Su Zimo said with a smile. D. From behind a tree, Su Fengyun burst out in a sneak attack, purple undying flames erupting around him. A phantom of the undying bird spread its wings behind him, shrieking sharply as its heat melted the very air. The surrounding trees caught fire instantly. I was waiting for you, Su Zimo said with a grin. He stepped back just as Su Fengyun's strike swept past him. As they crossed paths, Su Zimo lifted his right leg. A shockwave burst from his kick. With a deafening boom, Su Fengyun was sent flying, smashing into the ground. You all right? Chang Hu ran to help him up. And the other one? Su Zimo asked calmly. Not planning to show yourself? From another tree, Mu Ze slowly stepped out. What do you want? He asked. I want you dead, Su Zimo said, grinning. You can have the ancient site, Mu Ze said quickly. Take it. We'll back off. You think I need your permission? Su Zimo laughed coldly. Once you're dead, the site will still be mine. So, there's no talking this out? Mu Ze said flatly. Kill them, Su Zimo said, glancing at Shangguanxian. Shangguanxian raised her hand, forming a blazing palm of fire, and struck towards Su Fengyun. Among the three, Su Fengyun had the highest status, naturally. Chang Hu and Mu Ze rushed to protect him. Mu Ze stepped forward and met Shangguanxian's palm head-on. But she was no longer the person she'd been before. Having reached the Saint Sovereign realm, her power surged like an ocean in storm. Mu Ze was blown backward, his body smashing through a line of massive trees. Crack after crack rang out as more than 10 trees split in half. Run! Mu Ze shouted. Just one exchange told him everything. They were completely outmatched. Staying to fight would be suicide. Chang Hu and Su Fengyun scrambled to their feet and fled deeper into the forested gorge. Can you really escape? Su Zimo said with a faint smile. Shadow Tyrant flashed in his hand, unleashing countless arcs of blade energy. The air filled with shimmering sword light, a hellish sea of blades raining down over them. The three activated their true fate manifestations. Enormous violet undying birds blazing with undying flames, spreading their wings to shield them from above. If they'd been up against another Grand Emperor, they might have stood a chance. But between a Saint Sovereign and a Grand Emperor lay an unbridgeable gulf. With a thunderous explosion, the two stronger disciples, Chang Hu and Mu Ze, barely managed to withstand the onslaught, their bodies battered and bleeding. Su Fengyun, however, was not so lucky. Su Fengyun's back looked as though it had caved in. His bones were out of place, and the force of that strike had far exceeded what his body could endure. Covered in blood, he collapsed to the ground. He struggled to raise his right hand, reaching toward Chang Hu and Mu Zhe for help. But the two of them were already terrified out of their wits. Neither dared move to save him. And truthfully, even if they wanted to, they couldn't. Trying would only get them killed too. They might have shown respect to Su Fengyun in the past, but that was only because he was the Realm Lord's son. When it came down to life and death, no one cared who he was. As the saying went, better the fellow die than the poor Taoist himself. The two of them didn't look back. They just fled into the distance. But Su Zimo had no intention of letting them escape. In an instant, Shang Guanxian and Xiao Anshan rose into the air, cutting them off. Chang Hu glared fiercely, shouting, "Move aside! I won't compete for the ancient site anymore. Otherwise, we'll fight to the death. You think you're worthy to die with me?" Shang Guanxian said coldly. The pressure of a saint sovereign rippled from her body, shaking the air. The immortal spirit fire flared around her, and with a wave of her jade-like hand, a massive palm imprint crashed down from the heavens. Chang Hu's face changed drastically. Undying flames burst from his body, burning so fiercely that even the void seemed to melt. A great undying bird formed from the flames, spreading its wings and roaring in defiance. "The undying fire god realm truly has nothing new to offer," Shang Guanxian said icily. Her palm struck. The sheer force of it tore through everything. With a deafening boom, the shockwave echoed through the valley so powerfully that everyone's ears rang. The undying bird shattered into ashes, and Chang Hu's body was smashed into the ground, leaving behind a massive crater. It wasn't that Chang Hu was weak. Anyone who had made it to the ancestral lands was already monstrously talented. His undying flame was far from ordinary. But Shang Guanxian had already ascended to the Saint Sovereign realm, while he was still only at the peak of the Grand Emperor realm. That single step, that one boundary, was an uncrossable gulf. Just that one step was enough to crush countless emperors beneath her feet. So Shang Guanxian's victory was effortless. If she hadn't broken through, the fight might have been far more uncertain. Meanwhile, on the other side, Xiao Anshan and Mu Zhe were locked in a fierce battle. Mu Zhe's strength was exceptional. After all, he had earned the right to represent the vast undying fire god realm. He was no ordinary cultivator. Even though Xiao Anshan was of equal rank, he couldn't overpower him right away. In fact, a few times he found himself pushed dangerously close to defeat. "Xiao Anshan, are you sure you can handle this?" Su Zimo said with a teasing smile. "Want me to switch in?" Xiao Anshan snorted coldly. Before Su Zimo's appearance, he had been the strongest of the Chaos Fire God Realm's younger generation. Losing to Su Zimo had already wounded his pride. Being looked down on again was something he couldn't stand. "I don't need your help," he replied sharply. "I'll end this in 5 moves. "Arrogant," Mu Zhe snapped, glaring at him. "We'll see who's left standing." "Then let's see," Xiao Anshan said, eyes burning. Flames erupted from his body, the power of the primordial flame God King physique. The primordial flame God King physique was derived from the legendary primal chaos God King physique, one of the 10 God King physiques. In ancient times, the chaos fire progenitor had modified it, transforming it into the primordial flame God King physique. Though altered, its might was not diminished. If anything, it was even more suited to those of the fire god race. The moment his primordial fire ignited, waves of searing heat rolled across the gorge. Even the fire cultivators nearby felt the unbearable temperature. "Kill!" Xiao Anshan roared. His flames surged 100-fold, his entire figure becoming one with the blazing inferno. When their palms collided in the air, the chaos fire devoured the undying flame, setting Mu Zhe's body ablaze. Mu Zhe screamed in agony, summoning more undying flames from within to try to resist the encroaching fire. But it was useless. Among all flames, the primordial fire ranked among the highest, even stronger than Shang Guanxian's immortal spirit fire. In Su Zimo's experience, only his own Zhurong flame surpassed it. Under the onslaught of primordial fire, the battle was over in moments. Muse's body charred black like burnt earth, barely clinging to life. It was almost ironic, a member of the fire god race, dying by fire. Xiaoanshan grabbed the half-dead Muse and threw him at Su Zimo's feet. Then, with a prideful snort, he crossed his arms. "Well done," Su Zimo said with a small smile. Before him lay 3 defeated enemies, all gravely wounded, clinging to their last breaths. "When you reach the Mirage Tide's heaven after death," Su Zimo said softly, "remember my name." The 3 tried to beg for mercy, but it was already too late. Su Zimo swung Shadow Tyrant downward. 3 heads flew into the air. Their bodies and their souls were annihilated. Not even a sliver of them remained. After their deaths, Su Zimo turned to look at the 3 rogue cultivators, Luin Wan, Luin Wu, and Fire Maiden. Strictly speaking, they weren't truly on his side either. The 3 of them paled instantly. Luin Wan spoke first. "We don't want to fight for the ancient site. We just want to follow your lead. You take the main prize, we'll just drink the soup." The death of the undying fire god realm trio had terrified them beyond words. They didn't dare show the slightest hint of defiance. Surrender was the only way to survive. "Drinking the soup is fine," Su Zimo said with a grin. "But you'll be going first when we enter." What? Luin Wan stammered, his face twisting. No one knew what dangers lay inside that ancient site. If they went in first, they'd be the ones to die if there were traps or beasts waiting. "What's wrong?" Su Zimo said, his tone turning cold. "You want to drink the soup without paying the price?" His eyes narrowed, a dangerous gleam flashing within them. "Don't be angry," Fire Maiden said quickly. "We'll go first. We'll go first." Agreeing was the only way to keep their heads. Refuse, and Su Zimo would kill them where they stood. "Then let's go," Su Zimo said, waving his hand. The group rose into the air once more, flying toward the entrance of the ancient land. This time they moved carefully, making sure not to disturb the fire venom beasts above. At last they arrived at the entrance. Su Zimo looked it over quietly. The gateway was ancient, its surface wrapped in vines and roots. Time itself seemed to cling to it. "Please go ahead," Xiaoanshan said. The Fire Maiden and the other 2 hesitated for a moment before entering the cave. The entrance was narrow. Strictly speaking, it had once been much wider, but time had eroded and collapsed it, leaving only a small passage. To enter, everyone had to stoop low. No one dared to destroy the surrounding rock either, fearing they might disturb the fire-poisoned beasts above and bring ruin to this ancient site. Though the place was reinforced by some mysterious power, if the fire-poisoned beasts forced their way through, the ancient ground probably wouldn't last long. "I wonder which fire god race predecessor left this behind?" Xiaoanshan asked curiously. In the ancestral lands, there were quite a few such ancient sites. Many fire god race elders left their residences behind. Generally, they weren't particularly dangerous, but one could never be sure. Some predecessors were notoriously eccentric. So everyone moved with caution, not daring to take the situation lightly. After some time, the collapsed section above disappeared, and they could finally walk upright again. The surroundings were dim, and the air was thick and stale from centuries without circulation. "Look, there's a mural here," the Fire Maiden suddenly called out. Everyone turned their eyes toward her. In the faint light, a wall painting stood out vividly. It was similar to the mural at the entrance, depicting the 4 symbols sacred beasts: azure dragon, white tiger, vermilion bird, and black tortoise. The only difference was that here, the figures were far more lifelike and majestic. The azure dragon's body shimmered with blue energy that flowed like a mighty river, surging and crashing. The white tiger exuded a ferocious, murderous aura, intertwining with the dragon's azure light, blue and white currents swirling together. The vermilion bird and the black tortoise stood opposite each other, one embodying fire, the other water. Water and fire were opposites. The vermilion bird gazed down upon the world, its blazing flames encircling its form. The black tortoise roared toward the heavens, torrents gathering into a vast ocean that surged across the shell on its back, waves crashing and roaring. Seeing this mural, everyone fell deep into thought. The fire god race elder who had lived here must have been closely connected to the four symbols beasts. Let's go deeper, Suzimo said. They continued forward until, before long, they arrived at a massive gate. It was made of iron, tightly sealed and thick with dust. Clearly, no one had been here for countless years. Let me try opening it, the fire maiden said. Flames surged from her right hand as the power of a grand emperor radiated outward. She struck the gate with a heavy palm. A deep humming echoed through the silent chamber, reverberating endlessly. The others looked up, only to see the iron gate remain completely unmoved. It's so heavy, the fire maiden said in surprise, lowering her hand. With her grand emperor's strength, she couldn't even budge it. When her palms touched it, it felt less like a door and more like an entire world pressing back. I can't open it, she admitted. I'll give it a try, Shangguanxian said, stepping forward. Saintly power surged around her, threads of primal Tao coiling about her body. When her palms struck the gate, a thunderous boom filled the air, and she was blasted backward by a rebound force. But the gate itself shuddered violently, nearly pushed open. It attacked me? Shangguanxian said uncertainly. When she struck it, she had distinctly felt a power strike back. Does this gate have sentience? Suzimo frowned. He stepped closer and said calmly, We're speaking to you. Can you understand us? The gate remained motionless, silent. How could a mere door have intelligence? Xiaoanshan chuckled. Suzimo glanced at him but said nothing. Instead, he drew his weapon, Shadow Tyrant, and slashed down. With a deafening explosion, the blade's energy rebounded instantly. Then let's see about that, Suzimo said coldly. The blade hummed in his hand as countless power vortexes roared within his body. The force of heaven-shattering gathered around the weapon, trembling violently. He slashed again, this time. The door clearly shifted backward several inches but still reflected the strike. Continue, Suzimo ordered. The power of Heaven-Earth Dharma Codex activated, while within his mind, the God-Devil creation atlas spun rapidly. External strength from the heaven-shattering force, internal power from the creation atlas. His momentum soared to indescribable levels. Still unsatisfied, Suzimo summoned the three gates. With the gates of life, death, and eternity empowering him, his blade now radiated a killing intent that screamed, If gods block me, I'll slay gods. If Buddhas stand in my way, I'll destroy Buddhas. Too fierce. I'm done playing. A voice suddenly cried out. To everyone's astonishment, the iron gate sprouted a face, along with arms and legs, and shouted, Stop! Stop! What is that thing? Xiaoanshan exclaimed. So this is the gate without intelligence you mentioned? Suzimo smirked. You people are too violent. The moment you show up, you start hitting me. Can't we just talk? The iron gate complained. Who are you? Suzimo asked. Listen well. I am the one and only, peerless across heaven and earth, the strongest of all time, the four symbols fire progenitor, the gate declared proudly. You're the four symbols fire progenitor? The group asked in disbelief. How could the fire progenitor look like you? And who even is the four symbols fire progenitor? Never heard of such a thing, several muttered. The iron gate's face turned red with fury. You little brats don't even know your own ancestor? The four symbols fire progenitor is one of your tribe's oldest progenitors. Even if that's true, you're no ancestor. You're just a rusty old door, Suzimo replied calmly. The gate fell silent for a moment before saying, If you wish to enter, you must meet my conditions. Why should we? What if we just force our way in? Suzimo asked. If you try, you'll gain nothing, the gate warned. Then I'll just tear you down, Suzimo said coldly. You're unreasonable, the gate cried. Fine, I'll tell you the truth. I am the divine gate that the four symbols fire progenitor once used to seal the heavens and earth. If you want to pass, you must earn our recognition. Upon hearing this, Suzimo raised his blade again. Easy, Easy. No need for violence. The gate yelped, stumbling backward in fear. Can we go in? Su Zimo asked. You can talk, but could you please put the knife down first? The gate pleaded. Finished infusion treatment. Wrote while getting the 4. Finally caught up. Su Zimo lowered his blade and said, If you speak honestly, we'll let you go. Otherwise, I'll tear you apart. You have to ask questions before I can answer them. The Iron Gate replied helplessly. Who exactly was the 4 symbols fire progenitor? Xiaoanshan asked first. You're of the fire god race, and you're asking me? The gate retorted. Back in the earliest era of the ancestral lands, among the first generation of the fire god race, one of the greatest was the 4 symbols fire progenitor. And what about you? What are you? Shangguan Xian asked. The fire progenitor is long dead. How are you still alive? I told you already, the gate said proudly. I am the divine gate. The 4 symbols fire progenitor once used me to seal off an entire world. I am not a living being, merely a sleeping consciousness. I share my lifespan with heaven and earth. If the world does not perish, then neither do I. Impressive, isn't it? Hearing this, Su Zimo thought for a moment, then asked, And what lies behind you? And nothing, the Iron Gate answered quickly. Nothing? Then why are you so nervous? Su Zimo asked. This time the gate fell silent. Do you want to find out whether your metal shell is tougher than my blade? Su Zimo said coldly. We're all civilized people here. No need for violence. The gate said hastily. Behind me lies a world that the 4 symbols fire progenitor once imagined. Imagined? The group echoed in surprise. Yes, the gate said. As one of the first fire progenitors, he dreamed of the future of the fire god race, and he created a world of his own design. Unfortunately, when it came time to bring that vision to life, he realized the difficulty was too great. In the end, he failed. What remains behind me is what he once wished for, a reflection of that dream. We'd like to see it, Xiaoanshan said. No, the gate said sharply. That world exists independently. The only reason it has survived until now is because it remains sealed and isolated from the outside. If I open this gate and allow the outer time and space to merge with it, that world will likely be destroyed. You think that even if we don't look at it, it'll continue to exist? Su Zimo asked. Why wouldn't it? The gate replied. Because someone intends to seize the ancestral flame here. Once that's gone, not only the world you guard, but you yourself will be in danger. You claim to share your life with this land, so let's see if you truly can survive its end. That's impossible, the gate cried in shock. The Firekeepers are still here, and the Radiant Court would never allow the ancestral lands to collapse. It seems you don't really understand much after all, Su Zimo said with a faint smile. I've been asleep for far too long, the gate admitted. I don't know what's happening outside, but I still don't trust you. If anyone were to steal the ancestral flame, it would be people like you. We did seize an ancestral flame, Su Zimo said, shaking his head. But not from here. The ancestral lands held 6 ancestral flames in total. In truth, he only needed one. Any more would be unnecessary. As he spoke, Su Zimo took out the ancestral flame. Within its transparent vessel, a pale blue flame flickered softly. You thieves! The Iron Gate roared. You should worry about your own survival first, Su Zimo said calmly. So, what's your decision? Are you going to let us through, or not? Do I even have a choice? The Iron Gate sighed. At this point, whether it agreed or not made no difference. Su Zimo and his group were determined to enter. Is there any treasure or opportunity inside? Xiaoanshan asked. The Iron Gate seemed unwilling to answer. Go and see for yourselves, it said flatly. A deep rumbling echoed from within the gate's body. Rings of energy rippled outward, and within those ripples, lightning crackled and flared. The Iron Gate began to split apart, as if opening a passage to another world. Space connected to space, 2 realms overlapping. With a sharp pop, the division completed, and the gate opened fully. Please enter, the iron gate said. Let's go, Suzimo said, leading the way. As they stepped inside, everyone froze in astonishment. Before them stretched a vast crimson plain, not grass, but countless flickering red flames dancing like living spirits. Looking upward, they saw towering scarlet trees growing across the horizon, their emerald crowns glowing faintly. Thousands of fiery branches extended from the sky, interlacing to form a canopy that covered the entire land. A closer look revealed that these trees weren't real. They were formed entirely from living fire spirits. Beneath them, on the fiery ground, animals roamed and ran. Rabbits leaping, deer bounding through the groves, sparrows darting through the air, and eagles soaring across the skies. Yet none of them were truly alive. Every creature was an illusion born of fire. The group stood silently, awestruck by the grandeur and majesty of the world before them. I think I understand now, Xiaoanshan said quietly. This was the fire progenitor's dream, to create a world entirely born of flames. Exactly, Suzimo replied. A world where fire spirits formed all living things. A realm where the fire god race ruled as true masters. A magnificent vision, or rather, an impossible one. Even the human race never achieved such a feat. This world is collapsing, Shang Guanxian suddenly said, her expression changing. From the moment they entered, it was as if a drop of ink had fallen into a clear pool. The once pure world began to darken and distort. The crimson glow faded to shadow. One by one, the fiery trees and spirits turned to ash. The trees burned out, the grasses withered, and the fire-born beasts fell lifeless to the ground. The land was strewn with the wreckage of a dying world. The gate hadn't lied. Contact with the outer world had indeed doomed this realm. Until now, its time and life had been frozen. That was why it had endured for millions of years. Everyone sighed softly. Such a vision, so rare and so magnificent, had vanished before their eyes like a dream. Let's go deeper, Suzimo said. He couldn't help but think that the fire god race's forebears had all been madmen. To even dream of such a thing was defiance against the heavens themselves. And why were the heavens so powerful? Because they were the creators, the gods who made everything. Time, space, the five elements, yin and yang, and the primordial chaos itself. All who lived within this world were merely parts of that grand design. That was why, throughout history, all those who had tried to defy the heavens had met only with failure. In the world of the old villainous heaven, defeating him was nearly impossible. No matter how brilliant or peerless a person was, in the end they could never escape the grasp of that thieving god. But the ambition of the fire god race went even further. They sought to defy the very order of heaven itself. They wanted to create a world of their own. It was much like Suzimo's god world, an independent realm beyond the control of the thieving heaven. Within the god world, that god held no authority because their Suzimo himself was the creator. The fire god race must have shared a similar idea, but they chose a far less realistic path. Creating a world required immeasurable power, yet they had tried to forge one out of pure fire spirits. The difficulty of such a task could easily be imagined. Inevitably, they failed. The four symbols fire progenitor had used the divine gate to seal this world away, turning it into nothing more than a beautiful dream. Since then, after instability spread through the ancestral lands and the entire fire god race migrated to the Inferno Crucible heaven, the divine gate had never been opened again, because the world within it had perished. After Suzimo and his group entered, the land beneath their feet was barren and cracked, lifeless and desolate. Even the earth itself was dead. They walked for a long while, finding nothing of value. Just as they were preparing to turn back, Fire Maiden suddenly pointed ahead and shouted, "Look over there! What is that?" Everyone raised their heads. In the distance, several faint lights were flickering. "Let's go check it out," someone said. And the group's spirits lifted. They soared forward swiftly. After passing over several silent, dead mountains, they finally saw the lights clearly. They were four massive pillars of light, one green, one red, one white, and one blue. each rising straight into the sky and stirring the clouds above, stretching beyond sight. Despite their apparent closeness, the distance between them and the lights was enormous. Even after flying for half an hour, the group had yet to reach the pillars. At last, more than an hour later, as they neared the lights, they were suddenly stopped by an invisible barrier. Did the four symbols fire progenitor set this up too? Xiaoanshan asked. I'll try breaking it, Shang Guanxian said. Sacred power surged around her as she struck the barrier with her palm. A loud bang rang out. The barrier didn't retaliate like the divine gate had, but it remained completely unmoved, unyielding even under her full strength. That damn gate again, Shang Guanxian said angrily. Come out, you pile of scrap metal. Having become a saint sovereign, she'd thought herself unstoppable. Yet today, she'd been thwarted twice in a row. Who's calling for me now? Came the lazy voice of the Iron Gate. It seemed to move freely through this world, traversing time and space until it appeared before them. Looking around at the lifeless wasteland, it sighed. Just look at what you've done. A perfectly good dream world. Gone, just like that. Was this barrier you're doing? Shang Guanxian asked. What barrier? The gate blinked in confusion, then turned to see the transparent wall before them. That's strange. There shouldn't be a barrier here. It studied it closely before muttering, That's impossible. I can't sense it at all. If I hadn't seen it with my own eyes, I'd never know it existed. When it tried to touch the barrier with its power, it was repelled. Could it be that the four symbols fire progenitor set it up without telling you? Someone suggested. Impossible, the gate said firmly. Before leaving, the fire ancestor showed me the entire world from above and entrusted everything to me. But then its gaze shifted toward the interior of the barrier, and its expression suddenly changed. This is bad. Someone's stealing the four symbols flame crystals. What are you talking about? Su Zimo asked, frowning. What flame crystals? The gate explained hurriedly. Before the fire progenitor's death, he knew his end was near. So he left behind his own life essence flames, his core flame crystals within this world. I've been asleep for countless years, but just now, I couldn't sense them anymore. Normally, I can reach any corner of this realm at will. But this barrier blocks my connection completely. That means someone must have entered long before you did. You were bragging earlier about being a divine gate that once sealed an entire world, Shang Guanxian said mockingly. And now someone sneaks in under your nose and steals your treasures? You're all talk. I wasn't exaggerating, the gate protested. But whoever entered this place must be extraordinarily powerful. You should contact the Radiant Court. I doubt you can handle this. Oh, we can't handle it? Xiaoanshan said coldly. This world was entrusted to you by the fire progenitor. So what's your plan now? A strategic retreat, of course, the gate said, as if it were the most reasonable thing in the world. If someone can infiltrate without me noticing and steal the flame crystals, they're definitely not someone I can oppose. The gate turned toward Su Zimo, its tone suddenly deferential. If you ask me, only this young master here might have a chance. You're coming with us? Su Zimo said, grabbing the gate with one hand. He dragged it toward the barrier without hesitation. Master, wait. Let's talk this out. Gentlemen use words, not fists. The gate screamed, its voice like a pig being slaughtered. Let's see whether your power can break this barrier, Su Zimo said coldly. Wait. I'm old and fragile. You'll shatter me, the gate cried. In a sense, the gate was indeed a kind of weapon. Power erupted from Su Zimo's palm, surging violently into the iron gate. The gate began to tremble, divine might radiating from it in waves. Su Zimo shouted sharply, spreading his arms wide. With his right hand, he lifted the gate, tore through space, and slammed it against the barrier with all his strength. A deafening explosion followed. Everyone instinctively covered their ears. Su Zimo had held nothing back. His full sacred might and demonic energy poured into the strike. With a sharp crack, the barrier shattered like glass. As it broke, a powerful wave of heat burst forth. nearly knocking everyone off their feet. "Quick! Check the flame crystals!" the gate yelled. The group leapt into the air, flying straight toward the source of the four lights. Moments later, they descended before a massive altar. The enormous altar towered into the sky, surrounded by flickering lights of many colors. On top of it, countless streams of power flowed together like a river surging through the void. The focal point of this torrent was not far away, for crystals glowing with divine radiance. These four crystals represented the power of the four symbols. Azure for the azure dragon, white for the white tiger, crimson for the vermilion bird, and blue for the black tortoise. Their combined power converged into a single humanoid figure that was resisting the raging current erupting from the altar. When the Iron Gate saw that the figure was formed from the energy of the four symbols' flame crystals, it cried out in shock, "The four symbols' fire progenitor." Only then did everyone turn their eyes toward that figure. The grand vision left behind by the four symbols' fire progenitor had already astounded them, and now they were seeing the man himself, or rather, the image of what he once was. He looked to be around 30 years old, dressed in a cyan robe embroidered with the images of the four mythical beasts. He exuded the air of an immortal, majestic, transcendent, his very presence capable of overturning heaven and earth. His bearing was upright, his expression filled with the calm of one who had seen ages rise and fall. Yet his eyes burned with ferocity, like those of a wild beast barely restrained. It was easy to imagine how madly powerful he must have been in life. His nose was high and sharp, his long hair half red and half black. He stood there with flames swirling all around him, yet every spark of fire seemed to bow before him in reverence. "Incredible," Suzumo said with genuine admiration. As one born of the fire god race, he actually separated himself from the flame. He has transcended the limits of his race. Members of the fire god race could not live without flame. Their entire existence depended on it. Just look at the Inferno Crucible heaven. The environment they needed was always scorching hot. But the four symbols' fire progenitor was different. He had divided his essence from the fire itself. He could still command all flames, but his being was no longer bound by them. He was both part of the fire god race and something far beyond it. If that's the case, Suzumo thought aloud, then the inherent flaws of the fire god race wouldn't affect him anymore. Long ago, the water god Gongtu had tried to correct those same flaws through sheer force, ultimately creating the myriad streams. But now Suzumo was seeing a second path, escaping the flaw by transcending it altogether. The two methods were fundamentally different. Gongtu's approach was a permanent solution for the entire race, while the fire progenitor's was personal, a path only he could walk. Still, to reach such a state, peerless through the ages, was no exaggeration. "He looks right, but the aura's not the same," the Iron Gate sighed. "That's only a likeness." The four symbols' flame crystals had belonged to the fire progenitor himself. When threatened, they could manifest his image to fight back. But no matter how perfectly the form was replicated, they could never reproduce the true essence of his presence. That kind of overwhelming aura could only belong to the man himself. Some were tyrannical beyond compare. Others were ethereal and untouchable. True power had its own signature. The four pillars of light connecting heaven and earth joined together, struggling against the force of the altar. But on closer inspection, it was clear the altar's purpose wasn't to destroy the crystals. It was to restrain them, to keep them occupied, to trap them in a stalemate. Beside the crystals, something black was slowly siphoning away their power. It looked like a dark, pulsing tube. None of them recognized it. Because the altar demanded their attention, the crystals couldn't spare any energy to resist this thing, and so it continued to feed. For now, it was slow, but eventually, as the crystals weakened, they would no longer be able to hold the balance. When that happened, they would shatter. "Damn it! Good thing we got here in time," the Iron Gate snarled. "Otherwise, they'd have succeeded already." "Didn't you just try to run away?" Suzumo asked with a faint smirk. "That was a strategic withdrawal, all right?" the Iron Gate protested. "I was going to find reinforcements. No point dying for nothing." Do you know what that thing is? Su Zimo asked. The Iron Gate shook its head. No idea. I don't even know when it appeared here. Su Zimo stepped closer to the altar, studying it carefully. It was massive, radiating an ancient, formidable energy. The surface was cracked and pitted from the passage of time, but in the lower right corner he could still make out two faint characters. Refine heaven. He murmured the words aloud. The others didn't recognize the name, but the Iron Gate suddenly froze, its tone trembling. Refine heaven. Fire progenitor? Impossible. That's impossible. It stumbled back several steps, muttering incoherently. The heaven-refining fire progenitor is dead. He's been dead for ages. Why would he need the four symbols flame crystals? No, not the fire progenitor himself, it said suddenly. It's the heaven-refining cauldron. That explains everything. No wonder it slipped past me without detection. What are you talking about? Xiao Anshan asked, frowning. That altar's true name is the heaven-refining cauldron, the Iron Gate explained. It belonged to one of the oldest fire progenitors in history, known as the heaven-refining fire progenitor. His existence predates even the four symbols fire progenitor. We're talking about the primordial era, an ancient being. The Iron Gate sighed, recalling the fragments of history it knew. But he was slain long ago. Since then, the heaven-refining cauldron vanished. Now it seems someone has obtained it and is using it to steal the four symbols flame crystals. The cauldron was said to be able to refine anything. Nothing could withstand it. It must have refined part of this world itself, which is why I couldn't sense it. If he was that powerful, how did he die? Xiao Anshan asked. I only know what the four symbols fire progenitor once mentioned, the Iron Gate replied. In the primordial era there was a great war. The heaven-refining fire progenitor chose the wrong side, and he was torn apart by his enemies, dying a terrible death. You mean the demon descent era? Xiao Anshan's expression hardened. As the future fire ancestor of the Chaos Fire God realm, he knew some of the old histories. Most said the primordial era was followed by the ancient era, but the truth known only to the great beings was that what came after the primordial age was the demon descent era. The demons had ended the primordial age. The heaven-refining fire progenitor must have sided with the old world, and when the demons triumphed, he perished with it. But the demon descent era didn't last long. After the Infernal Lord's third attempt to wage war on heaven ended in failure, the 9 heavens rose in rebellion. The demons were defeated and banished, marking the beginning of the ancient era. These are all ancient tales, the Iron Gate said at last, shaking its head. Who can say what really happened back then? Our main task right now, the Iron Gate said urgently, isn't to discuss ancient history, but to figure out how to save the four symbols flame crystals. He looked at Su Zimo pleadingly. I'm afraid my power alone isn't enough. I'll need your help. Why should I help you? Su Zimo replied flatly. The Iron Gate was speechless. It turned its gaze toward Xiao Anshan, Shangguan Xian, and the others, Fire Maiden and her companions. You're all of the fire god race. Are you really going to ignore your elder's legacy? We came here with young Master Su, Shangguan Xian said plainly. He makes the decisions. Her meaning was clear. If Su Zimo agreed, they would act. If not, they wouldn't interfere. Yes, we all listened to young Master Su. Fire Maiden, Luan Wu, and the others echoed, nodding. The Iron Gate could only sigh helplessly and look back at Su Zimo. All right then, it said. Name your terms. What do you want in return? You don't have anything that interests me? Su Zimo said, shaking his head. The Iron Gate felt despair creeping in, until Su Zimo added, However, he continued, I am interested in those four symbols flame crystals. How about this? I'll help you destroy whoever's stealing them, and afterward you'll give the crystals to me. How are you any different from that thief? The Iron Gate shouted angrily. No difference, Su Zimo said with a shrug. Except he's stealing in secret, and I'm taking them openly, and even had the courtesy to tell you first. The Iron Gate was left speechless. You've had your eye on those crystals from the start, haven't you? It asked bitterly. Suzimo only smiled. His gaze lingered on the 4 symbols' flame crystals, their pulsing power gleaming like molten gems. The sheer energy flowing through them was enough to make anyone covetous. He had already reached the 2nd realm of Saint Sovereign, the Chaos Primordial. Deep down, he had a feeling, if he could absorb the power of those 4 flame crystals, he might be able to step into the 3rd realm of Saint Sovereign, Eternal Overlord. So yes, the crystals were his for the taking. I can't stop you anyway, the Iron Gate said at last, sounding resigned. Do as you please. There was nothing it could do. The difference in strength was absolute. Of course, if it had known Suzimo's true identity, that he was the infernal lord who once tore the heaven-refining fire progenitor apart with his bare hands, it might have been too shocked to speak at all. Let's deal with that thing first, Suzimo said, turning toward the black tube-like structure. I want to see what it really is. He approached the dark pipe, drawing his blade, Shadow Tyrant, in a single smooth motion. Power surged around him, distorting the air. A burst of blade intent swept forth, cutting down with unstoppable force. With a sharp crack, the tube split neatly in 2. Suzimo picked up one half, studying it carefully. After a moment, he realized it wasn't a pipe at all, it was flesh. It looked disturbingly like the nostril of some enormous creature. Why isn't there any reaction? Xiaoanshan muttered. The words had barely left his mouth when the other half of the nose suddenly retracted with incredible speed. A deep, thunderous rumbling followed. The ground began to quake violently. No, not just the ground. The very space they stood in was trembling, as though reality itself was shaking apart. Everyone steadied themselves, eyes locked on the direction of the disturbance. Then, in the sky, a blazing red vortex appeared. From within it, a single hoof emerged first. As the creature forced itself through the vortex, more of its grotesque body came into view. What is that? Shangguan Xian's voice trembled as her pupils shrank. The creature's full form was revealed, and it was horrifying. It resembled an octopus in shape, but far more abominable. An octopus's underside was made entirely of tentacles. Yet this being's lower body was a tangled mix of white tentacles and pale, boneless legs covered in small, grinning skulls. In its hand, it had hands. It clutched a bloody, beating heart, as though freshly torn from a chest. Its limbs, tentacles, legs, arms, and even a tail hung loosely beneath it, dripping with black ichor. Its bloated belly was split open, forming a vast abyssal maw, from which a purple tongue slithered outward like a serpent. Its head was small and bald, with only a few crooked teeth left. 2 hands sprouted from its scalp, each gripping heavy iron chains. When the monster finally emerged, the group was stunned into silence. None of them had ever seen such a thing, but after a closer look, they noticed something familiar. It looks like a fire venom beast, Xiaoanshan said uncertainly. A mutated one? I've never seen a fire venom beast that looks like this, someone murmured. It's not the same, Suzimo said, shaking his head. This one has consciousness, intelligence. We should have realized it sooner. This ancient ruin lies right beneath the fire venom beast's nest. It must have been aware of us all along. The fire venom beast's lair and the ancient site weren't coincidentally connected. They had been deliberately linked. You've disturbed my sleep, the monster rasped, voice sluggish and broken. And my evolution. You must die. All of you must die. It sounded groggy, as if it had just awakened from a long hibernation, half asleep and dazed. Then, with a guttural roar, it gazed down upon them all. Dozens of its tentacles lashed out, each one radiating a suffocating aura of death. Run! The Iron Gate screamed. Run where? Suzimo snapped, seizing the Iron Gate in his grip. He had already grown adept at wielding it. The Iron Gate wasn't just a sentient artifact, it was a powerful weapon, infused with a unique power of sealing, the kind rarely seen even among divine relics. Calling it a divine gate wasn't an exaggeration. As the monstrous tentacles swept toward them, Suzimo stepped into the air. "Take care of yourselves," he called back to the others. "Seal!" The sealing force surged outward, freezing the oncoming tentacles in midair. Sensing that Suzimo was the greatest threat, the monster focused on him. One of its massive legs lifted and came crashing down through the void. Where it descended, the very space around it solidified. Suzimo found himself momentarily unable to move, the fabric of reality binding him in place. He raised the iron gate before him as the colossal limb struck. The impact was deafening. The blow smashed him downward, driving his body deep beneath the earth, while the monster's legs stretched further and further, pressing him down as though it intended to crush him through the planet's crust. "Ah, that hurts," the iron gate howled. By the time the legs stopped extending, Suzimo had been driven several kilometers underground. He exhaled slowly, feeling the pressure finally lessen. Suzimo retreated a few steps, his body wedged within the massive crater, finally stopping the crushing power of the tentacle that sought to bury him alive. "Good grief, at least a sage monarch," Suzimo muttered. There was no doubt about it, the monster's strength was terrifying. Even a single tentacle possessed such overwhelming might. Without hesitation, Suzimo summoned the heaven-shattering giant. The colossal giant seized the monstrous tentacle in its arms and hurled it toward the sky. The tentacle was violently yanked, and the monster clearly felt the pain. The two titans strained against each other in a brutal contest of power. In the end, the monster proved stronger, wrenching its tentacle free. But as it withdrew, the heaven-shattering giant, still clutching Suzimo, burst from the ground, returning them to the surface. Suzimo quickly surveyed the battlefield. Among their group, only Shangguanxian and Xiao Anshan had enough strength to briefly fend off the creature's attacks. The others, Fire Maiden and her two companions, were already ensnared by the writhing tentacles, their hearts ripped out one by one and devoured by the skulls embedded in the monster's limbs. "Help me!" Luin Wen screamed from above. But Suzimo didn't even look in his direction. "We need to retreat," Xiao Anshan urged. He knew he couldn't last much longer. This was only the monster's tentacles, not even its full power. "You all fall back," Suzimo said calmly. He was determined to claim the four symbols' flame crystals. Nothing would sway him. "Brother, let me go!" The iron gate cried out from his hand. "No," Suzimo replied, shaking his head. "You and this world live or die together." "I'll stay behind," Shangguanxian volunteered. "I'm a Saint Sovereign. I can hold it off for a while." "You've only just reached the Saint Sovereign realm," Suzimo said firmly. "Staying will just distract me. This monster is definitely a fire venom beast. You two leave and clear out the other fire venom beasts in their nest. I'll handle this one." "Be careful," Shangguanxian said softly. Suzimo nodded, watching them depart. He finally turned back toward the monster, his expression hardening. With a sweep of his hand, a spatial rift opened to the god world. Out stepped four terrifying figures: Seven-Face, the Demon of Despair, Paimon, the Red Blade Bull Demon, and Celestial Devourer. Black demonic energy rolled off them like storm clouds as they emerged. "Well, looks like we've got a big one this time," Paimon said with a grin. "Master," the four greeted in unison. "Fight beside me, let's bring it down," Suzimo commanded. The hell-suppressing demon physique within him erupted. Torrents of infernal power surged outward, forming swirling black storms around him. His blade, Shadow Tyrant, was soon engulfed by that energy, transforming into a weapon of pure darkness, a demon blade that radiated slaughter. Purple-black lines crawled across Suzimo's face, pulsing with destructive power. "Kill!" he shouted. The oncoming tentacles lashed toward him, but his demonic blade flashed with unstoppable sharpness, cutting one completely in half. The monster howled in agony. Paimon and the other three surrounded it, forming a deadly encirclement. Paimon's despairing demonic aura condensed into countless ghostly faces, which swarmed over and devoured an entire tentacle. Sevenface wielded a seven-petaled demonic lotus. As it descended, each petal split apart into countless smaller blossoms, filling the world with slicing, killing intent. Meanwhile, the Red-Blade Bull Demon and Celestial Devourer fought with raw physical might. The two stood on the monster's massive shoulders, each grabbing one of its arms. The monster still held heavy iron chains in its hands, which the two demons sought to seize. They wrestled violently, the creature roaring in fury, but its strength was no match for theirs. Since the iron chains were fused directly to its arms, when the two infernal archons yanked with full force, not only did they rip away the chains, they tore both arms from its body. The monster shrieked in pain. Despite its immense power, it was being overwhelmed by opponents all at the level of Sage Monarchs. Su Zimo and the infernal archons exchanged glances and launched a coordinated assault, targeting its legs and remaining limbs. Su Zimo unleashed his God-Devil creation Atlas, Heaven-Earth Dharma Codex, and heaven-shattering force all at once. In an instant, he grew into a towering giant equal in size to the monster itself, his demonic aura surging skyward. He charged forward, grabbed the creature's head with both hands, and smashed it down into the ground. With a deafening boom, the monster's massive body crashed into the earth. It struggled to rise, but Su Zimo pinned it down, his fists wrapped in surging black flame as he pummeled it again and again. After a relentless beating, the creature finally seemed to weaken, its movements sluggish. "This thing looks scary but doesn't hit hard," the Red-Blade Bull Demon snorted. But no sooner had he spoken than the monster's flesh began to glow red, flames spreading across its body. Suddenly, its long purple tongue shot out like a spear, catching the bull demon off guard and sending him flying. He crashed heavily to the ground, clutching his chest, which now had a gaping, smoking hole through it. "So it's angry now?" he growled, wincing in pain. Before their eyes, the creature began to transform. It was entering a second form. The abyssal mouth that had once split open its belly now shifted upward, becoming its head. The entire structure of its body changed, as though it had evolved into some kind of void-dwelling predator. That gaping maw resembled the mouth of a monstrous man-eating flower. The tentacles regrew rapidly, and the towering monster collapsed down, taking root into the ground, turning into a gigantic, carnivorous flower. From its central mouth, the purple tongue whipped out again and again, infinitely extending. Even when Su Zimo tried cutting it, his blade couldn't sever it. The tongue was as hard as divine metal, capable of piercing through almost anything. Around it, countless tentacles flailed wildly, thrashing like a storm of demons. "Sever its tentacles first, cripple its limbs," Su Zimo ordered sharply. "Yes, master," the infernal archons responded. The five of them darted and struck within the storm of tendrils, cutting and dodging. Though the tongue was indestructible, the other tentacles were not. They could still be sliced apart. But as more and more tentacles were destroyed, the monstrous flower grew desperate. Its abyssal mouth opened wide, and a terrifying energy surged from within. A brilliant purple beam of annihilation erupted outward, pure destruction made manifest. "Dodge!" Su Zimo shouted. The group scattered as the beam swept across the battlefield like a laser, vaporizing everything it touched. Wherever it passed, space itself melted away. The beam swung wildly, carving deadly arcs through the air. Su Zimo and the others scrambled to evade, each movement a heartbeat away from death. If even one of them was struck, survival would be uncertain. "We have to stop it," Su Zimo roared. "I'll handle it," the Red-Blade Bull Demon bellowed, stepping forward. A deep, thunderous bellow echoed through the void. In the blink of an eye, the Red-Blade Bull Demon transformed into his true form, a colossal primal chaos bull demon. He raised his head and roared toward the heavens, his entire body wreathed in swirling demonic energy. Within that dark aura, his blood-red eyes blazed like twin suns of rage. As the purple beam from the monstrous man-eating flower swept across the battlefield, the primal chaos bull demon did not dodge. Instead, he charged directly into it. When the two forces collided, the purple beam tore through the demonic energy, nearly blowing the massive bull's body backward. But the primal chaos bull demon stood his ground. After retreating dozens of steps, he finally adapted to the beam's destructive force. His aura surged once more, demonic energy shrouding him from head to hoof. He pawed at the ground with his rear legs, snorting heavily, his rumbling bellows growing louder and louder, rolling through the air like thunder. Locking eyes with the monstrous flower, the primal chaos bull demon pressed forward one step at a time. The closer he got, the heavier the pressure became. That beam of violet annihilation seared everything, its destructive light scorching even the hair on his forehead. At less than 100 feet away, his advance slowed to a crawl. Both sides strained against each other in a deadlock. "Help the old bull!" Su Zimo shouted. He lifted Shadow Tyrant, demonic energy surging down the length of the blade like a tidal wave. The weapon grew hundreds of times larger, and Su Zimo's towering body radiated an infernal presence. He brought the demonic blade crashing down upon the monstrous flower, and the other infernal archons followed up with their own attacks. Explosions roared again and again, shaking the entire space. The monstrous flower screamed in agony. At that moment, the purple beam of destruction weakened. With a furious bellow, the primal chaos bull demon lowered his two massive horns, now glowing with deep, black demonic light, and drove them straight into the creature's gaping maw. The purple radiance shattered instantly. The monster let out a piercing shriek. The bull demon kept pushing forward, driving his horns through its core and flipping the enormous flower onto its side. The other infernal archons seized its tentacles, pinning it down so it could no longer move. Su Zimo leapt into the air, demonic power gathering in both hands. His blade roared with power, blood-red light cascading like a hellish waterfall. Thunder rolled through the void as demonic clouds churned. Pouring all his strength into one strike, Su Zimo raised Shadow Tyrant with both hands and brought it down in a sweeping arc, leaving a trail of black light across the heavens. The blade fell from above like divine judgment, slamming into the monster's body with devastating force. This time, the blow struck true. The monstrous flower convulsed violently, its energy collapsing as its aura rapidly faded. "I won't accept this," came its hoarse, dying voice. "If I'd only had more time, I could have absorbed the 4 symbols flame crystals. My power would have grown beyond measure." "You're dreaming," the Iron Gate snapped. "Tell me, how did you get the heaven-refining cauldron?" The monster didn't respond. It only thrashed weakly, letting out a final, echoing roar before its voice dissolved into silence. Bright red blood seeped from its vast body, spreading across the ground as its life force dissipated completely. Its limbs stiffened, its monstrous form collapsing inward. Seeing it dead, the Iron Gate became cocky again, jeering from the side. "Weren't you arrogant just now? Come on, show off again if you can." "Enough," Su Zimo said, waving his hand dismissively. He stepped forward toward the 4 symbols flame crystals. The crystals, still conscious and sentient, had resisted the monster earlier. Now, they turned that same wary power against Su Zimo, releasing waves of energy to block his approach. "Iron Gate, maybe try talking to it," Su Zimo said. The Iron Gate sighed, resigned. It floated over to the 4 symbols flame crystals, seemingly communicating in some unknown way. After a long while, it returned with a helpless expression. "No use," it said. "They refuse to acknowledge you as their master." "I never said I wanted them to," Su Zimo replied coolly. "I just want their power. Without their energy, they're nothing but dead crystals." The Iron Gate argued. "Of course they won't agree." "Then tell them this," Su Zimo said coldly. "If they refuse, I'll crush them to dust." "I can't do that," the Iron Gate protested. "They won't listen to me anyway." Su Zimo could tell it had tried its best. It clearly didn't want to see the crystals destroyed, but his resolve was already set. He looked at the 4 infernal archons. "Hold the formation," Suppress the 4 symbols flame crystals. I need their power to ascend to eternal overlord. The 4 infernal archons bowed their heads. As you command. They took their positions around the crystals, their demonic energy merging into a dark barrier that swallowed the entire sky. The heavens turned black. The 4 symbols flame crystals surged, trying to resist, their guardian beasts thrashing within the void. But chains of shadow descended from the demonic clouds, wrapping around the divine beasts and binding them completely. Su Zimo strode into the air and pressed his palm down. Immense power surged from his hand, imprisoning the crystals in an unbreakable seal. With the infernal archons anchoring the formation, the crystals could no longer fight back. Su Zimo began extracting their energy, little by little. He sat cross-legged in midair, preparing to break through, to step into the eternal overlord stage. As he closed his eyes, the iron gate tried to slip away quietly. But before it could take more than a few steps, Su Zimo's voice rang out. Where do you think you're going? The iron gate froze midair, then forced a smile. You misunderstand. I was just stretching my hinges. I know you want to leave, Su Zimo said calmly. But can you really escape? The ancestral lands won't last much longer. When this place collapses, creatures like you, remnants of the old era, will perish with it. He had said this before, but the Iron Gate hadn't believed him. Hearing it again now, its tone carried a hint of unease. You're telling the truth? It asked skeptically. Su Zimo smirked. You should know what kind of man I am. I don't waste time lying about things like this. So the Radiant Court no longer wants the ancestral lands? The Iron Gate pressed. It's not that, Su Zimo replied. They're abandoning the old, to embrace the new. He shook his head. There's no point explaining it all to you now. Believe me or not, it's your choice. Serve me, and I'll take you out of here when the time comes. If not, then go. In truth, Su Zimo said this out of appreciation. The Iron Gate was a powerful weapon, its sealing power unlike anything he had ever seen, an artifact worth preserving. After speaking, Su Zimo paid it no further attention and closed his eyes again, beginning his meditation and absorption. Unbeknownst to the Iron Gate, he had already given silent instructions. If it truly tried to escape, the 4 infernal archons would seize it instantly. Su Zimo's thoughts were simple. If something couldn't be used by him, how could he possibly allow it to leave? He might as well tear that door apart right there and then. He didn't say it aloud, though he wanted to win the Iron Gate's loyalty, not its fear. If the Iron Gate chose to stay willingly, all the better. It would save him quite a bit of trouble. For now, Su Zimo had no time for anything else. He was fully focused on breaking through, on stepping into eternity. Unlike the Chaos Primordial stage, the power of the Eternal Overlord stage lived up to its name. It was said that once, an Eternal Overlord had struck the Unforgotten Mountain with a single sword. The entire mountain had split apart, and even after countless centuries, the sword intent he left behind still lingered, as vast and boundless as the sea. That was the true power of eternity. If one were struck by an Eternal Overlord, and one's own strength did not match theirs, the wound would never fully heal, not even after 1,000 years. Such was the mark of an Eternal Overlord's might. Within the 5 stages of the Saint Sovereign Realm, Eternal Overlord stood as the third, a realm of profound power. With 4 great infernal archons guarding him, Su Zimo could meditate in peace, free from any outside interference. His consciousness entered a realm of pure darkness. Within him, his God soul, the embodiment of the God world, began to spin rapidly. With the aid of that internal world, his comprehension speed doubled, perhaps even more. If his understanding of the primal Tao of the world had once been as narrow as a finger, now that he was becoming an eternal overlord, those same primal Tao thickened into something as broad and solid as an arm. The power of primal Tao within him grew stronger and stronger, little by little. It was a long and gradual process, but Su Zimo was patient, fully immersed in the sensation of transformation. The God world within him was intimately tied to his own being. As he grew stronger, That inner world expanded from a small, self-contained realm into a true medium-sized world. The stronger Suzimo became, the wider the god world stretched, and the might of its heavenly laws grew in tandem. In the past, when Suzimo was at the Grand Emperor realm, the native beings of his continent could never surpass that level. The world's law itself placed a ceiling upon them. Its power simply couldn't sustain anything greater. But now that he had walked far along the path of the Saint Sovereign, his world's inhabitants could naturally reach higher levels of cultivation as well. Suzimo and his inner continent nourished each other in a perfect cycle, one strengthening the other. Inside his body, the twin life-death souls sat cross-legged, one on each side. Their posture and appearance mirrored Suzimo's exactly. They faced the heavens, breathing in the spirit energy of the world. With every breath in and out, countless laws of nature surged and intertwined around them. Meanwhile, Suzimo's hell-suppressing demon physique seethed with infernal energy. Strengthened by the evolving primal Daos, his physical form grew more formidable with every moment. A monstrous, demonic visage began to take shape upon his chest, a new transformation born of the eternal overlord. The 10 meridian gates within him roared as torrents of demonic energy surged through his 8 strange meridians and 5 internal organs, resonating even with his god soul. Suzimo had no sense of time anymore. He only knew that he was surrounded by an endless ocean of primal Tao, enveloped in pure bliss. When the transformation reached completion, the aura of eternity erupted from his body, vast and indestructible. Even through the rise and fall of ages, he would remain unending. I live and perish with heaven and earth. When the final strand of primal Tao fully evolved, spirit energy within him flowed like a roaring river, shaking the heavens. His aura swelled higher and higher until, suddenly, he opened his eyes. A thunderous roar burst from his chest, shattering the silence and echoing across the entire inner world. The power radiating from him blasted outward, ripping the land apart. The ground cracked open with a deafening rumble that seemed to tear through creation itself. "Fall back!" the 4 infernal archons shouted, retreating swiftly as waves of energy swept across the area. Dust filled the air, veiling the world in chaos. When it finally settled, Suzimo rose slowly to his feet. The power of eternity surged through his veins, boundless and terrifying. "Congratulations, my lord." The 4 infernal archons descended from the sky, kneeling as one. Suzimo gave a faint nod, a smile curling at the corner of his lips. "It feels good to be stronger," he said lightly. Then he lifted his gaze toward the 4 symbols flame crystals above. At first, he had believed that their energy came purely from the 4 elemental beasts, but as he refined their power during his breakthrough, he realized it was far purer than that. This was no ordinary 4-fold fire energy. Suzimo concluded that the crystal's true origin had nothing to do with the 4 symbols. It had merely been discovered and named by the fire god race afterward. Within it lay one of the most pristine forces in all of creation. Now that power was gone. The surface of the flame crystal was covered in cracks, ready to shatter at any moment. "You should have known better," Suzimo said coldly. "If you had obeyed me before, I would have left you a spark of strength to survive. But now, only destruction remains." He extended a finger and tapped the crystal lightly. A sharp crack rang out, and the 4 symbols flame crystal shattered into fine dust, vanishing into the void. Suzimo never showed mercy to anything, or anyone, that defied his will. He turned and saw the iron gate still standing nearby. "You're still here?" he asked with a grin. "I thought about it," the iron gate said. "Staying by your side is probably the safest choice, though you're also the most dangerous." "A wise decision," Suzimo chuckled. "By the way, aside from these crystals, did the 4 symbols fire progenitor leave behind any inheritances?" "Not much," the iron gate replied. "Just a few of his so-called signature divine techniques. But you probably wouldn't be interested." "I might not be," Suzimo said with a smirk. "But the others who came with me will be. You really do plan to wring me dry, don't you?" the Iron Gate complained, but it still obediently handed over the cultivation methods. How long was I in seclusion? Su Zimo asked. About 7 days, Paimon answered. So long already? Su Zimo murmured. He waved his right hand, opening portals leading back to the God world. Go back and cultivate, he ordered. After watching the 4 infernal archons depart, Su Zimo grabbed the Iron Gate and said, Come on, let's head out. I wonder how things are up there. Leaving the ancient ground behind, Su Zimo immediately sensed the destruction of the fire venom beast's nest above. The battle had long since ended. He spread his divine sense outward, instantly locating Shangguan Xian and the others. He tore open the void before him and stepped through. A heartbeat later, he appeared before them. They were gathered on an open plain, resting and waiting for his return. You finally came out, Realm Lord Bai exclaimed in relief. We were worried something had happened to you. Su Zimo smiled and tossed him a few scrolls. They're the divine techniques left behind by the 4 symbols fire progenitor, he said. These should be useful to your ancient eternal god realm, Su Zimo said. Train well. With them, challenging someone of a higher realm won't be difficult. Thank you, young master, Realm Lord Bai replied quickly. She didn't even check what the items were before putting them away. At this point, she trusted Su Zimo completely. Anything he gave could only be extraordinary. The fire venom beasts have been dealt with? Su Zimo asked. We ran into some trouble, but we managed to kill most of them, Xiao Anshan replied. That's good, Su Zimo nodded. You handled that monster too? Xiao Anshan asked in surprise. He had seen the creature's strength himself, so powerful that even if he stepped into the Saint's sovereign realm, he doubted he could defeat it. Now he began to understand why the fire ancestor had told him to follow Su Zimo. The man was not just stronger, he was unfathomably strong. And in the few days they hadn't seen each other, Su Zimo's aura had grown even more oppressive. The pressure he exuded was now far beyond what it had been before. It meant he had once again ascended to a higher level. That realization stirred something in Xiao Anshan, an urgent desire to break through into the Saint's sovereign realm. Being left behind like this didn't feel good. It wasn't a big deal, Su Zimo replied casually. Just a big fellow, that's all. Have you had any unexpected encounters these past few days? We actually made a discovery, Shangguan Xian said. When we destroyed the fire venom beast's nest, we seem to have alarmed the guardians of this Thunder Domain's ancestral flame. The Fire Keepers? Su Zimo asked with interest. Do you know where the source they protect is located? The ancestral lands were divided into 6 domains: metal, wood, water, fire, earth, and thunder. Each domain held an ancestral flame. Su Zimo wasn't particularly interested in the Thunder Domain's ancestral flame, but it was about time to bring things to an end. We couldn't find it, but they reached out to us, Shangguan Xian continued. They invited us to join them in wiping out the remaining fire venom beasts. Seems they're treating you as free labor, Su Zimo laughed. We pretended to agree, but we were waiting to hear your decision, Shangguan Xian said. Forget the fire venom beasts, Su Zimo said. Even without us, their extinction is only a matter of time. For now, let's meet these guardians and find out where they're stationed. We agreed to meet here, Shangguan Xian said. They should be on their way. Then we'll wait, Su Zimo nodded. 3 days passed as everyone waited. No one knew exactly what Su Zimo had in mind, whether he intended to seize the Thunder Domain's ancestral flame or something else entirely. But Su Zimo never explained his actions, and they didn't dare ask. On the 3rd day, a fiery red cloud appeared on the horizon. The cloud blazed as it moved, flames rippling across the sky. They're here, someone murmured as the group looked up. From within the fire cloud emerged more than a dozen figures, the Fire Keepers. Their leader was a Saint Sovereign, and even the weakest among them had reached the Grand Emperor realm. Their presence radiated intense power, the air crackling with the sound of burning flames. Upon seeing Su Zimo's group, the leading elder frowned slightly. You have some new faces among you, he said. They're our friends, Xiao Anshan explained. Are they trustworthy? The elder asked doubtfully. Let me make it simple, Su Zimo said. I'm the one in charge here. Whatever concerns them, you talk to me. The elder gave Su Zimo a look, unimpressed. The young man's tone was arrogant, and the elder didn't like it. And what do you mean by that? He asked coldly. I mean you don't need to worry about killing the fire venom beasts anymore, Su Zimo replied with a smile. And why is that? Because someone else will kill them, Su Zimo said lightly. What I want is to visit the place you're guarding. I can sense hostility in your words, the elder said, frowning deeply. I suggest you retract them. We can still be allies. What benefit would I get from being your ally? Su Zimo shook his head. No, I think I'd rather keep you all here, and then we can talk. As he spoke, he raised his hand and struck toward the elder. The old man snorted coldly. Power surged from him as flames erupted behind him. A massive serpent of fire, dozens of meters long, materialized and lunged toward Su Zimo with its jaws wide open. But though the elder was a saint sovereign, his strength was limited. Su Zimo, having just stepped into the eternal overlord stage, had power beyond comparison. With a single palm strike, an overwhelming force descended. A thunderous explosion echoed as the fire serpent shattered instantly. The elder's eyes went wide. He hadn't expected Su Zimo to be this strong. That seemingly casual strike felt as if it could crush his skull. Not good, he gasped, trying desperately to flee. Su Zimo held back slightly, not using his full strength, but his palm still struck the elder squarely in the back. Blood sprayed from the elder's mouth as he crashed to the ground, unconscious. Run! He shouted weakly to his comrades. Xiao Anshan and the others prepared to intercept the fleeing guardians, but Su Zimo stopped them. Let them run, he said calmly. They watched as the fiery cloud of escape streaked toward the horizon. Su Zimo narrowed his eyes slightly. Follow them, he ordered. They'll lead us straight to their base. The group took to the air, pursuing the fire cloud, not attacking, just following openly. Su Zimo didn't even bother to conceal himself. The guardians tried to flee faster, attempting to widen the distance, but no matter how they moved, they couldn't shake their pursuers. Finally, after half an hour of pursuit, the fire cloud suddenly vanished in midair. It happened without warning, as if the cloud had been swallowed by the void. Xiao Anshan frowned. What's going on? This should be their sanctuary, Su Zimo replied. It's a separate world of its own. We just don't know how to enter it. So what do we do now? Shangguan Xian asked. We wait, Su Zimo said, landing on the ground. He leaned against a tree, perfectly relaxed. Wait for what? Shangguan Xian asked curiously. For everyone to arrive, Su Zimo smiled. That's when the Real show begins. Realm Lord Bai, you'll stay here, he continued. Your strength is too low. Xiao Anshan, Shangguan Xian, you two go gather information. What kind of information? They asked, confused. The ancestral lands have 6 domains, Su Zimo said. We already took the ancestral flame of the water domain, and that domain has been destroyed. Now we're guarding the thunder domain's ancestral flame. You're going to find out what's happening in the other 4. Su Zimo ordered calmly. I want to see how fast these people can move, how long it will take for the other 4 domains to be destroyed. You mean the other 4 domains' ancestral flames will also be seized, just like we took the water domain's ancestral flame, and then everything will be annihilated? Xiao Anshan asked in shock. They had come to the ancestral lands to search for ancient grounds and inheritances. How had things turned into destroying the entire ancestral lands? Wouldn't the Radiant Court go insane? They won't go mad, Su Zimo said with a small smile. They're probably laughing in secret. What do you mean? Xiao Anshan still didn't understand. I told those fire keepers before. You think I was lying to them? Su Zimo asked. The Radiant Court wants us to take the ancestral flames and destroy the ancestral lands. Why? Xiao Anshan was completely puzzled. What do you think the purpose of the ancestral lands is? Su Zimo asked. Xiao Anshan thought for a long time before replying. Even though no one ever said it out loud, we all know deep down. The ancestral lands represents the true lineage of the fire god race. Whoever possesses it is recognized as the rightful ruler of the fire god race. Among the 6 great god realms, the Radiant Court is considered more noble than the other 5. You're wrong, Su Zimo said, shaking his head. That's just a shallow understanding. The ancestral lands exists to preserve these ancestral flames, to give them a place of belonging. But now, the Radiant Court wants to gather all the ancestral flames and begin a new era. To do that, they must erase the old order. Every part of it, the ancestral flames, the guardians, even the ancestral lands itself, will be buried by them. A new era? Xiao Anshan frowned. What kind of era? You'll find out eventually, Su Zimo replied with a faint, knowing smile. But don't worry, this era will only benefit your fire god race, not harm it. You should be grateful. You'll live in an age where you'll have the chance to grow even stronger. Since Su Zimo clearly didn't want to explain further, Xiao Anshan didn't press the issue. He remembered that Su Zimo had once mentioned something similar to the Fire Keepers, but he hadn't taken it seriously back then. He'd thought Su Zimo was bluffing. How could someone actually destroy the ancestral lands? Now, though, it all made sense. The Radiant Court had opened the ancestral lands to all of the Inferno Crucible Heaven without reason, letting anyone participate. Clearly, this was part of their plan. There was no way the Radiant Court had suddenly grown generous. Xiao Anshan didn't believe that for a second. Go investigate the situation in the other 4 domains, Su Zimo said with a smile. See how far their destruction has come. Perhaps, in the end, everyone will gather together. He laughed lightly. That's when your fire god race's grand performance begins. As for me, a human, I'll just sit back and enjoy the show. Xiao Anshan and Shangguan Xian didn't fully understand, but they nodded and did as they were told. Both of them stepped into the sky and flew off toward the other fire domains. Su Zimo stayed behind with Realm Lord Bai. While we still have time, you can practice the divine arts left behind by the 4 symbols fire progenitor, Su Zimo said. All right, Realm Lord Bai replied quickly. She took out the training scrolls and began to study them carefully. Her talent was remarkable otherwise. She could never have become the leader of the ancient eternal god realm. Su Zimo, meanwhile, began talking with Iron Gate. Iron Gate had been passed down from the oldest age of the fire god race, since the time of the 4 symbols fire progenitor. It knew many secrets, more than most beings alive. Su Zimo asked it many questions, and Iron Gate answered freely. After all, it was following Su Zimo now, and it needed to prove its worth. The fire god race, as a race, had a history and origin no weaker than that of the human race. In the age when the ancient gods walked the world, one of those divine beings had been of the fire god race. Over countless ages, the fire god race had come to rule the Inferno Crucible Heaven, and even among the 9 heavens, they held a place of great power. Su Zimo took out the Heaven Refining Cauldron. This cauldron had been left behind by the Heaven Refining Fire Progenitor. According to Iron Gate, it could seal the heavens and earth. While the lock of heaven could bind them, this cauldron could refine them. They were like key and lock counterparts to one another. The cauldron was the perfect counter to the lock. Without it, that monstrous fire venom beast could never have entered so easily. Staring at the cauldron, Su Zimo poured his Zhurong flame into it. In an instant, the cauldron came alive, radiating an overwhelming power. Its flames seemed capable of melting anything under heaven. No fire could compare. Iron Gate let out a low laugh. Funny, isn't it? What's funny? Su Zimo asked. That a human like you wields the strongest fire in existence, while we, the fire god race, fall short even in our own element. Iron Gate replied. I'm curious. How did you obtain this flame? Nothing mysterious about it, Su Zimo said with a faint smile. It came from an ancient god. You mean the legendary fire god, Zhurong? Iron Gate asked in shock. Seems you know quite a bit, Su Zimo replied. I've heard stories of Zhurong, or rather, every fire god race member has, Iron Gate said with a nod. But these days, few in the fire god race still care about that legend. Some even doubt whether Zhurong ever existed. But I know that there was a god named Zhurong in this world. How are you so sure? Su Zimo asked. I once followed the four symbols fire progenitor to an ancient site left by the gods. Inside were statues of the 9 ancient gods. Among them was the fire god. Iron Gate explained. The truth is, Zhurong's identity has always been a mystery. Some say he was of the fire god race, others say he was human. There are all kinds of claims. Su Zimo nodded slightly. When he'd rescued Redblade Bull Demon, he too hadn't known much about the fire god Zhurong. The being had always been shrouded in mystery. He turned his gaze toward Realm Lord Bai, who was still cultivating. Her entire body glowed fiery red, a coiling dragon of flame spiraling around her. Her expression shifted between calm and strain, her aura fluctuating wildly between strength and weakness. Then, suddenly, something went wrong. She spat out a mouthful of blood. Failed? Su Zimo asked. Realm Lord Bai nodded slightly, frowning. I followed the scroll's instructions exactly. Why did it fail? It doesn't make sense. The divine art of the four symbols fire progenitor was created for the fire god race, Su Zimo said with a smile. Our human bodies are structured differently. It's natural for it not to work perfectly. You don't need to follow the methods so rigidly. Just cultivate in whatever way feels most natural to you. I'll try again, Realm Lord Bai said, suddenly enlightened. After all, practicing a fire god race technique in a human body was bound to bring difficulties. Su Zimo's words finally helped her understand. In the days that followed, Su Zimo remained in place. At times, he experimented with the sealing power of the Iron Gate. At others, he practiced controlling the furnace fire within the heaven-refining cauldron. His days were full and productive. After 7 days, Xiaoanshan was the first to bring news. The Earth domain had fallen, conquered by the Hell Tiger race. Its ancestral flame was seized, and now the entire domain was collapsing. A few days later, Shangguan Xian returned with more information. In the metal domain, the Shangguan heavenly clan of the divine crow god realm had annihilated the fire keepers and claimed its ancestral flame. Among the 5 great god realms, earth, metal, water, wood, and thunder, earth had been destroyed by the Hell Tiger race, metal by the divine crow god realm, and water by Su Zimo's chaos fire god realm. The wood domain had been taken by the vermilion flame god realm. Though their leader Du Bujia had been killed earlier by Li Guan, the vermilion flame god realm was still one of the 6 great god realms. Their strength was formidable, and they had trained several new talents. When the ancestral lands opened, 3 of these so-called wanderers entered as their allies, most likely people secretly cultivated by the vermilion flame god realm. Inside, they not only conquered the wood domain but also sent parties searching for Li Guan, intent on killing him to avenge Du Bujia and restore vermilion flame's honor. They could not afford to lose face before the others. As for the final domain, rumors said it too had been destroyed by wanderers. The 5 domains had all fallen. Now only the Thunder domain, guarded by Su Zimo, remained intact. Although the Fire Guardian's sanctum in each domain was deeply hidden and nearly impossible to locate, the prodigies who entered this realm all had their own means. On the day the 5th domain fell, Su Zimo and his 3 companions sat cross-legged in meditation. Xiaoanshan was the first to speak. At this rate, everyone will probably gather here soon. That's when things will get interesting, Su Zimo said with a grin. Before everyone arrives, no one is allowed to attack the Thunder Domain's guardian ground. The audience hasn't gathered yet. Let's not overturn the stage too early. Understood. Xiaoanshan nodded. When the Thunder Domain falls, the ancestral lands will be truly finished, Shangguan Xian sighed. That's the way of the world, Su Zimo replied casually. Every age brings its heroes, each reigning for 100 years or so. During this period, Realm Lord Bai had made great progress. She not only began to master the divine arts left behind by the 4 symbols fire progenitor, but her cultivation had also risen considerably. She tried several times to thank Su Zimo, but he refused every time. Someone's coming, Shangguan Xian suddenly said, staring into the distance. Don't rush to act, Su Zimo said. Are they wanderers or from one of the god realms? Wanderers, Xiao Anshan answered. Then let's wait. Those god realm people are the slow ones, Su Zimo said, shaking his head. Soon the newcomers appeared, 5 of them in total. One of them held a compass, surrounded by the power of the constellations. This should be the place, the man murmured. Brother Wang, stop searching. Looks like someone beat us to it. One of his companions said, pointing towards Su Zimo's group. These 5 wanderers were all unfamiliar faces. Su Zimo and his companions didn't recognize any of them. But the Chaos Fire God Realms group was well known throughout the ancestral lands, so the newcomers quickly adjusted their attitude. Are you the prodigies of the Chaos Fire God Realm? One of them asked respectfully. Xiao Anshan stepped forward and nodded. Are you also here for the Thunder Domain's ancestral flame? The wanderer asked again. If so, they were competitors, and whether the fight would be fair or underhanded didn't matter. The name of the Chaos Fire God Realm might be famous, but that alone didn't scare anyone here. We have no interest in taking the ancestral flame, Xiao Anshan said plainly. But for now, it cannot be touched. Why not? The wanderer asked. Because the ancestral flame grounds will only open when everyone has arrived, Xiao Anshan replied. That's the rule we've set. The wanderers exchanged glances. They clearly wanted to argue, but after looking at Su Zimo's group, they decided to stay quiet and wait. None of them knew what the Chaos Fire God Realm was planning. Logically, the fewer competitors there were, the greater the chance of success in claiming an ancestral flame. Why then wait for everyone? As time passed, more and more people gathered. Hearing that the Chaos Fire God Realm was here, some decided to stay silent and observe the situation. But others were less patient. So what if you're from the Chaos Fire God Realm? A black-robed young man said with a sneer. The Thunder Domain's ancestral flame is open to all. Who are you to give orders here? He stepped forward boldly, his tone dripping with mockery. You lot think you can control everything? There are so many of us, why should we listen to you? You're all cowards if you do. As soon as he spoke, murmurs broke out among the crowd. Many people agreed with him, their voices growing louder. Accusations flew towards Su Zimo's side, criticizing them for arrogance. Su Zimo said nothing. Shangguan Xian rose slowly. Want me to handle it? She asked. I'll do it, Su Zimo said, shaking his head. He walked forward, step by steady step, and stopped in front of the black-robed youth. What's your name? Names don't change whether I'm sitting or standing, the young man said coldly. I'm Yuan Onkong, sect master of the Dark Crow Dao Court. The crowd stirred. Yuan Onkong? The so-called abandoned child. I heard he was cast out by the Dark Crow Dao Court as a child. Later, he grew up, destroyed the entire sect, and rebuilt it with himself as the new sect master. They say he's cruel and cunning, good at every sort of deceit. As whispers spread, Yuan Onkong's face grew smug. He shouted, Shouldn't you of the Chaos Fire God Realm give everyone here an explanation? You want an explanation? Su Zimo asked with a faint grin. Fine, I'll give you one. He drew Shadow Tyrant from his back. Though he smiled, in Yuan Onkong's eyes that smile was colder than death itself. It was the gaze of someone looking at a corpse. Yuan Onkong instinctively stepped back, his confidence faltering. But realizing he was losing face, he straightened and snorted. He'd crawled from piles of bodies, his hands stained with blood. What was there to fear? And what kind of explanation are you going to give? He asked defiantly. The moment the words left his mouth, Su Zimo's blade flashed. The slash came down like judgment. A wave of blade energy erupted, sweeping through everything in its path, carrying the might of a saint sovereign and annihilating everything before it, rushing straight toward Yuan Onkong. Yuan Onkong's face went pale, every hair on his body standing on end. He felt the shadow of death envelop him. He wanted to flee, but the crushing pressure of that blade's force made it impossible to move.